all around the world, 30 of which...
Shalom. So, first thing first, I'm gonna get into some scrolls, whatever. But what I wanted to get into, since now we seeing these coalitions, you know what I'm saying? All the time, you starting to see the whole USA be formed more into that corporation it always has been, but now you're starting to see it more locally, right? So I'm gonna get this first, and then I'm gonna go into, let me see, hold on. They said, yeah, let me get this first. Now, this is dealing with Ukraine, because we're dealing with the Gog and Magog, and then we're gonna deal with the ships of Tarshish, right? The ships of Tarshish prophecy, but we're gonna get the in-depth and out-depth before we get into the scrolls. So check it out.
Which are in the Ukraine that are currently producing anthrax, the plague, and many other... We have a pretty big story coming out of Ukraine right now, apparently. And I wanted to wait to cover this because I wanted to wait to get all the information, but apparently Russia has produced a bunch of documents showing that there are hundreds of U.S.-funded bioterror labs all around the world, 30 of which are in the Ukraine, that are currently producing anthrax, the plague, and many other different diseases. Now, this isn't just coming from the Russian government, which it is, or the Chinese government, which it is. We're going to show you that next. But this has also been confirmed recently by the U.S. government. Victoria Nuland, who was Dick Cheney's foreign policy advisor, is basically in the same position now, confirmed the existence of these biolabs and said that she is concerned that Russia is going to take over these biolabs and probably figure out what they've been doing there. So this is a really big story. No one is talking about this. We're going to get into this next. I also want to talk about what's happening with oil, which is very concerning. This affects food. This affects everything. But before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to this video sponsor. This video has been kindly sponsored by Noble Gold. And, you know, the biggest fear that people have in situations like this one now isn't actually losing money. When polled, the biggest fear that people have, unfortunately, is losing their status with family and friends, as sad as that sounds. Gold has risen, you ignored it, you feel like you lost out. But this has been in the cards for a while now, and if you didn't take action before, it's not too late. Putting some precious metals in an IRA or 401k rollover gives you a safety net against anything bad that's coming. Noble Gold has helped thousands of clients just like you. Make sure to give them a ring at 877-646-5347 or hit the link below and find out how they can help you. And so we have this article. This is from Big League Politics. It says Russia produces documents showing U.S.-funded bioterror labs in Ukraine producing anthrax and the plague. It says Russia has produced documents showing that the U.S.-funded bioterror labs in Ukraine were producing dangerous pathogens such as anthrax, the plague, cholera, and tularemia. Whatever the fuck that is. It sounds bad, though. It sounds bad. It sounds almost worse than AIDS. Quote, in the course of the special military operation, evidence of the Kiev regime's hasty measures to conceal any traces of the military biological program financed by the U.S. Department of Defense in Ukraine has been revealed, Russian Ministry of Defense spokesperson Igor Konashev said. Quote, now the documents are being analyzed by Russian specialists of the troops of radiation, chemical, and biological protection, he added. Big League Politics has reported on how a color revolution coup initiated by the globalists in 2014 set the stage for Ukraine to be allowed into NATO, which all foreign policy experts agree is a clear provocation to Russia. You have a lot of stupid people who are refuting me in the comment section on BitChute or whatever platform that I post video segments to, saying, well, Russia started this war. Russia's the one who initiated this war. No, they weren't. Okay, it was NATO, it was the US, it was us who were the aggressors, us who crossed the red lines. It says, quote, often lost in the haze of war is truth, but the truth regarding the Ukraine-Russia conflict is explicit, and many experts from varying ideological backgrounds have warned that NATO expansion would provoke hostilities for decades. We literally invaded them. That's what we did. And in fact, Biden in 1997 admitted this. He said that the only way we would see a hostile response from Russia is if NATO expanded and took over the Baltic states, which happened a long time ago. Here's Biden in 1997.
I think the one place where the greatest consternation would be caused in the short term for admission, having nothing to do with the merit and preparedness of the country to come in, would be to
dealing with the
admit the Baltic
Japanese.
states
Now
now
look,
in terms
this
of
before
NATO, Russian.
this before the arousal of Moab, which is China, biblically Moab. This before the arising, before all of that, they starting to bring. Now, cause that's dealing with they people, even though that's different segments of them, that's still they people. So Japanese, they said the Japanese corporate corruption. Now this was in 90 what? What was that? 97, right? This is June 20th, 1997, right?
In U.S.-Russian relations. And if there was ever anything that was going to tip the balance, were it to be tipped in terms of a vigorous and hostile reaction, I don't mean military, in Russia, it would be that. So the way I look at the calculus here is
There's Biden. I mean, everyone knew that this was going to happen. Everyone predicted this. They said if this happens, if these agreements were broken, and so forth, that this was going to happen. They predicted this. They all knew this.
Now, they just showed you how everybody played together. You see how everything run together, right? With all these people, they be like, oh, they predicted. And man, no, man. That's because they working together. They got all the blueprints together. While we don't know, they shit, bro. They already showed us this locally. See, bro, you get the battle axe of these people locally first. And then if you pay attention locally, you will see exactly what's going to happen next. They sit, while we don't know it, they sit behind closed doors. They sit at these round tables. They sit at the round tables or whatever type of table. It's a table. And these folks already have the blueprint up. It's just like you get on social media. And that was already proven. You get on social media, these two artists or these two people arguing, they both got influence. But then later on, you will see them making a song together. Later on, you will see them. It's the same thing, bro. This is a show, bro. So the fact that they saying, now I'm gonna go back. The fact that he's saying, boom, okay, they already knew that this was gonna happen, and now it's starting to happen. But they already planted it. That's why they knew. This is how they do predictive programming, predictive analysis, because they already planted. Because it's all dictation. That's what we heading at in humanity, is all dictation. So look, we finna go right back to show you.
Literally invaded them. That's what we did. And in fact, Biden...
And another thing before I get back into it, why ain't nobody talking about NATO like that? It's all about Ukraine, Russia, maybe Iran, maybe China, and why ain't nobody talking about NATO like that? That's another thing. Why ain't nobody really talking about NATO? You know, that's a question mark.
97 admitted this. He said that the only way we would see a hostile response from Russia is if NATO expanded and took over the Baltic states, which happened a long time ago. Here's Biden in 1997.
I think the one place where the greatest consternation would be caused in the short term for admission, having nothing to do with the merit and preparedness of the country to come in, would be to admit Baltic states now in terms of NATO, U.S.-Russian relations. And if there was ever anything that was going to tip the balance, were it to be tipped in terms of a vigorous and hostile reaction, I don't mean military, in Russia, it would be that. So the way I look at the calculus here is
There's Biden. I mean, everyone knew that this was going to happen. Everyone predicted this. They said if this happens, if these agreements were broken, and so forth, that this was going to happen. They predicted this. They all knew this. There's articles from The Guardian, from the Los Angeles Times, and so forth, all saying this. They all knew this was going to happen, and they didn't. They proceeded anyway. We also have this from this is from ASB News Military Breaking. China, the U.S. has 336 labs in 30 countries under its control, including 26 in Ukraine alone. It should give a full account of its biological military activities at home and abroad and subject itself to multilateral verification. So we have this this other video here, which is translated, and there you go. And once again, just in case you want to say that this is Russian propaganda or Chinese propaganda, it's not. It's not. We have more news on this. It says the Ukrainian authorities have been urgently destroying pathogens studied at its laboratories linked to the U.S. Department of Defense. The Russian military claimed on Monday, adding that such activities hint at the military purposes of these studies. As many as 30 biological laboratories have been established in Ukraine, which they're rushing to destroy the evidence of these pathogens, rushing to destroy the evidence of these things, just in case Russia gets control of these biological laboratories. They've been established in Ukraine that are actively cooperating with the U.S. military. The commander of the Russian Radiological, Chemical, and Biological Defense Force, Lieutenant General Igor Kurilev, that's a different last name. Are they all just named Igor? Are they all named Igor? What the? Said in a news briefing on Monday. Many of these laboratories have been active since the 2014 coup d'etat in Ukraine, and their emergence in the country has coincided with a spike in infectious diseases in the region, including German measles, diphtheria, tuberculosis, the Russian military said. And this is one of these clips from probably another Igor. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation has often turned its attention to the military biological program rolled out on post-Soviet space of the Pentagon, including the territory of Ukraine, which housed 30 biolabs that could be divided into scientific research and sanitary biological biology, I guess. The funding agency of the work is the Ministry of Defense of the U.S., DRTA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency. For example, since 2021, the Pentagon has been monitoring diagnosing zoonotic diseases among the armed forces of Ukraine with the funding of $1.8 million. In 2020-21 years, on the territory of Ukraine, the Ministry of Defense of Germany to study the pathogens of the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, leptospirosis, meningitis, hantavirus, as part of an agreement between the two states to quarantine biological safety on the outer borders of the EU. So it just goes on. It's just further confirmation of these biolabs that exist. Zoonotic diseases, right? Zoonotic these nuts, right? Vaginitis, winter vagina. What was it? Winter vagina, which is actually a thing, which we found out in one of the previous segments on this. Winter vagina. And the thing, and before we get into this Victoria Nuland video, there's this other thing I want to mention, which is this, and this is something I've talked about before. We have this article up on dailyveracity.com about the people behind the data for the digital IDs that are coming, the universal digital IDs, and we talked about how DARPA, and I think we played it in this video. Let me see if I can find this here. Yeah, we talked about it in this video here. So make sure to go check out this video. Total surveillance state. It's happening. Digital ID, social credit system begins. We have hundreds of different biolabs, bioterror labs, which is important. It's an important distinction. Not just biolabs, but bioterror labs all across the country, 30 of which are in Ukraine. And here's Victoria Nuland, right, who was the foreign policy advisor of Dick Cheney, who is basically in the same position now, who was caught on video back in 2014 during the coup d'etat of Ukraine when we installed a puppet regime after the color revolution, was caught on audio recording talking about who to choose for this new government, for this new puppet government that we were going to install in Ukraine. Here's her confirming the existence of these biolabs. Take a look.
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
So there you go. That's what they're concerned about. They have these research labs. They're destroying evidence. They're concerned about the Russian takeover of these biological research labs. And so they're covering it up. They're covering it up. They're rushing to cover it up. Meanwhile, we have the propaganda just continues to flow. more attacks on Russians, even here at home and abroad. Just regular Russian people, regular Russian stores. We have Chuck Schumer, the famous Jewish American politician who, and I don't know why he hasn't got any flack for this, but he says that another Holocaust is happening. Another Holocaust. Breaking news. Breaking news. Another Holocaust is underway, according to Chuck Schumer. Take a look.
A Holocaust going on. When you see that people are lined up on buses to just leave a conflict zone and Putin's artillery shells those buses, that is just below humanity, below dignity. We also need to give the brave Ukrainian fighting forces, who are doing much better than anyone ever imagined, the arms they need, whether it be javelins or stingers or anything else. They need these arms simply to defend themselves against brutal Russian aggression.
So there you go. Arm them. Keep arming them so that we provoke a World War III and we provoke more death than we would have provoked if we were just to do nothing. We were just to do nothing. And who the hell knows if any of what he's saying is true, or any of what the media is reporting is true, because we've been over all this different propaganda that has been debunked, all these different lies that Ukraine has been caught red-handed in. There's this other video here. This is from some people, and this was on Sputnik, some Ukrainians, who said that Ukrainian armed forces fired at facilities in the residential sector and then blamed it on Russia. So they're bombing their own people, apparently, which I've seen many reports about, and they're blaming it on Russia. Furthermore, there's this thing that we have, and we put this up on Telegram, by the way, t.me/realvincentjames. Ukrainian sapper filmed by local resident laying a bottle of incendiary spirit explosive on the kids. Basically, laying a Molotov cocktail, just say that, on a kid's playground to organize a false flag on peaceful targets. Don't know if it's on a playground. I don't know if he's trying to get it out of the way, or I don't know what this guy's doing here, but it's very odd, it's very weird, especially when you hear all these different reports, taking a picture of it, right? Taking a picture of it so that he can, that's what he's doing. He's taking a picture of it so he can blame it on the Russians. They put a Molotov cocktail on the playground. We need USA. We need US aid now. We need US arms now. I mean, that's the only thing I could deduce from that. And, you know, especially given all the lies we've seen, we showed you this yesterday. Ukraine lied to the world in an attempt to provoke a global war between countries with nuclear weapons. The State Department sent an urgent message to all U.S. embassies in Europe telling them not to retweet the below tweet from the U.S. Embassy in Kiev because it's fake news. They say it's a war crime to attack a nuclear power plant. Putin's shelling of Europe's largest nuclear plant takes his reign of terror one step further. Didn't happen. Okay? Didn't happen. We also have this up on my Telegram channel. Could you imagine if this was a Jewish center or even Asian? The scene at the Russian Community Center on West 4th Avenue this morning, front doors slathered in blue and yellow paint. You know, we went through all the other stuff yesterday. People are getting fired for being Russian if they don't denounce Putin. You had Alexander Ovechkin, who was taking off marketing campaigns because he refused to denounce Putin or whatever. You have Netflix suspending its operations in Russia. You have liquor stores and states banning the distribution of Russian vodka in their liquor stores and grocery stores. I mean, this is absolutely insane. I mean, this is they love the word xenophobic, except when it doesn't benefit them. And we know that this sort of shit would not be, and they're not reporting on this. They're not reporting on this. Just as they haven't reported on the fact that Israel has annexed most of its territory over the past 50 years, and no one gives a shit about that. I wonder why. This is going to be crazy. This whole oil thing, this whole oil crisis, gas crisis, is going to be it's going to be crazy. Right? And I said something on Telegram recently. I said this. I said that you see all these different tweets of people saying that, well, we should be paying $6 a gallon for gas for at least the next few months in order to stick it to Russia, to stick it to Putin, to help liberate Ukraine. Right? This is what you see all these leftists on Twitter saying. Everyone, not just left-wing people, but right, everyone's saying this. That it's okay, we'll pay $6 a gallon for gas as long as we could stick it to Russia and help liberate Ukraine. Now, these are the same people that had a problem with Trump imposing tariffs. Remember this? It wasn't that long ago when these same people were complaining about the fact that they were going to have to pay a few extra cents for their six-pack of beer because of the tariffs that Trump wanted to impose. And now they're saying, well, we should be paying $6 a gallon in gas. Well, guess what? It's probably going to be much more than that. And we see wheat, the cost of wheat going up. We see, this is insane. This is insane. I hope you guys are prepared. I hope you have prepared accordingly for shit to happen. Whatever that shit might be, but just for shit to happen, you got to have a stockpile of stuff. Ammo, food, water, generators, have whatever you can get your hands on. Because this shit can get real, real quick. It already has gotten real. And they're doing this intentionally. This is all part of their plan. Biden plans to ban Russian oil imports, but buy it from Moscow's allies instead of producing it at home. We have this from Zero Hedge. Canada said its oil could replace U.S. imports of Russian crude. All it would take is the approval of the Keystone XL pipeline, which he doesn't want to do, of course. And, you know, if you guys are old enough to remember, maybe Asmodor, who's in chat, is old enough to remember, I don't know. But if you guys are old enough to remember the fuel crisis of the 1970s, this could get much worse than that. Real quick. I mean, you had people defending their cars with their guns. I've showed you pictures before, so that people wouldn't siphon their gas, so that neighbors wouldn't siphon their gas. You had certain cars that can only drive on certain days if their license plate ended with certain things. And this lasted for quite some time. I mean, this is what happens in third world countries. Gas prices shouldn't be this unstable. The things that are happening right now, it shouldn't be this unstable. This is intentional, this is deliberate, and it's on par with many third world countries. And it's all a part of their plan, by the way. It says, yes, we were in Dallas on vacation when I was 6. You had to wait in line for hours and can only buy 5 gallons. Yeah. And it's going to, I mean, can you imagine what would happen? I mean, people and it didn't even last that long, and people were like savages. Look at what happened during the LA riots. People are nice until you take their shit away, until you take the shit that they need to survive away. And so you have to be able to defend yourself. You have to be able to defend your property and your family. I would get out of the cities, okay? That's just my opinion. If you're in the city, I would leave. If you have the financial capability to do so, I would leave the city. Okay, get the fuck away from the cities. And when I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about like suburbs sometimes could be okay, but like if you're in the city, if you're in the city center, get far away from that. If you can. I know a lot of people can't. But here we are, once again, you present the international crisis and then you present the international solution. And if you're against the international solution, then you are banned from the public town square, or worse. International crisis with COVID, which they created in a lab, and then they provide the international solution, which is the vaccines, which they also created in a lab. DARPA was behind both of those. You have the international crisis, which is Russia invading Ukraine, and then you have the international solution, which is arm Ukraine, which is encourage Ukraine, which is go to war. You have the international crisis, which is climate change, and then you have the international solution, which is the natural asset corporations. Everything we talk about in this article, billionaires are stealing millions of acres of land using climate change as their justification. This is their international solution. And as I've said before, and I've been saying this for months, and now it's coming to fruition, in order to get you to beg for their international solution, they're going to make you cold. They're going to make you hungry. If you thought what happened in Texas during the cold, during the winter time was anything, just wait until what they have in store for you. They're going to make you cold. They're going to make you tired. They're going to make you hungry. They're going to take away your resources, and they're going to make you beg. They're going to scare, just like they scared the shit out of you with COVID, where you begged for the international solution. They're going to make you beg for the solution to this crisis that they created when it comes to climate change. Green energy, avoiding nuclear, avoiding the Keystone pipeline. And it's all in lockstep with Operation Lockstep and those other documents that came thereafter. It's in lockstep with what the World Economic Forum predicted conveniently. It's all a part of their plan. And that's it. So, stock up. Raw oil is $40 for 5 quarts now. Yeah, I mean, it's this will definitely fold into climate change. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? This is how they do it, right? Because if you look at the World Economic Forum and their predictions, right, we're going to get away from natural gas. There's not going to be any more gas stations that are going to be built. You have certain states that are banning new construction of gas stations. You have all these laws that are and just goes on and on and on. And then you go into this whole natural asset corporation story where they're going into developing countries and our country and taking millions of acres of land using climate change as the pretext so that they can conserve this land. They're doing debt for nature swaps in developing countries. It just goes on. And this was all, it's all lines up. It all lines up and people just can't see it. Fat Gay Retard says, did you see the feminists in France go topless calling out Putin? Yeah, I did. Oh, this is an RT. This should be fine, right? Oh, yeah, I have seen this. That's his face. His face, dough. That's like Nick with that picture. With the... You guys know the picture I'm talking about? Where he's caught in... I don't think he was looking. He wasn't, dude. It was just like sort of an out of context picture. I don't know what was going through his head. But he's taking a picture with this chick, and she's just got these like tig old bitties, and you see Nick and caught in the picture, like looking. He could have been looking down at something else, but this is what reminds me of that. Watch his face here. Putin be loving some titties. Putin be loving those tig old bitties. Very true. In order for the show to continue and for the website to grow, I need your support. You can support by going to Subscribestar, where you will get access to the private Telegram group chat, the Discord, and all exclusive content. You can also support the show by using cryptocurrency. All of that information is in the description below. You can also support by going to preparewithvincent.com or waterwithvincent.com for your 25-year shelf life dry food supply or water filtration needs. Check out the links in the description below. It helps the show tremendously.
Dense and basically materialize. It's what we would call materialization. When we see these ghosts or demons or shadow people that materialize from like a black mist in the corner of the room and that type of thing. Well, in Michael Crichton's book, Prey, he talks about these nanoswarms being able to get very dense, condense down, and materialize into basically doppelgangers. They could pretend to be people. So this is actually the third part to that series right here. The Archon Invasion, New World Order, Parasites right here. This is your brain on parasites, talking about these nanotechnologies. And then the part 2 to that was here, the Secret Space Program, Vril, Parasites, Shadow People, and Nano Possession. So I had said at the end of that one that I was going to take all the clips that were like the high strangeness about cryptids and that type of thing, and I was going to put them all together in one sort of cryptid video with the clips. So that's what this is right here. But that is a 6.5 hour series. So if you haven't seen that and you still want to watch this video about cryptids and the sentient mist and all of that, let me distill it in like 60 seconds. So right here on the screen, we have a clip from Rice University. I've shown this several times before.
Nanomachines for several years, particularly nano cars, which we've made previously, where we had 4 wheels and a chassis, and then we built motorized nano cars that had these little motors that could push them along a surface. And more recently, what we did is we built something analogous to a nano submarine, where we could have the motor rotate when we shine a light on it, and the motor rotates at...
Now, so like this right here is dealing with the, what was this? This also dealing with the, what was that? The cortical biolab, all that. It just went more deep into it. So let it get into it.
2 to 3 million rotations per second when a light shines on it, and we could propel it in solution. Now these molecular motors and the molecular nanomachines are really quite small. We can park about 50,000 of them across the diameter of a human hair. And so what we've done in this study is we've shown that we can drill into cells, human cells, or animal cells, we can drill into them using these nanomachines. So the nanomachines will attach to the surface, and then a light will be shown upon them, and they will drill right into the cell.
Okay, let me break in here just for a second. I want to play some more of that clip, but I'm trying to distill 5 years of research and deleted videos from my deleted YouTube channel in like 5 minutes. So what he just said about these molecular nanomachines being able to drill into cells and all of this and deliver a payload and all of this type of thing, he's basically giving the exact definition of what we are told are, quote, viruses, right? Like here on the screen, this is a bacteriophage, and phage medicine is old, this is old school stuff. This has been around a long time. And you can see clearly these are molecular nanomachines. These aren't viruses. These are engineered robots, drones on a tiny, tiny scale. They're not something left over from evolution that are just floating around carrying these tiny pieces of DNA or whatever their payload is. No, none of it is happenstance. We've been lied to. What he is describing, these molecular nanomachines that they made in a lab, is precisely what we've been told are viruses. Now, the bacteriophage is the one that I always use because it's the only one that has ever actually been seen under an electron microscope. We know about the viral isolates, and the big discussion now scientifically is, do viruses even exist? Have they ever been isolated? Is this science sound? And, the general consensus is no. No, because they haven't been able to see them, to actually see them. They have these markers that let them know they're there and all that, and we reinterpret that science just based on the science. And this bacteriophage I always pick because this one was actually distilled in the centrifuges and was seen under the electron microscope. There are several images of it. So, and it clearly is a tiny robot that is drilling into a cell. Okay, back to the clip.
And what allows us you to see in the video that there are 2 cells which are having surrounded by these nanomachines. So when you look at the cells, you see this wonderful green network, which is the mitochondrial network, and the UV excitation. And this this ultraviolet light actually also excites the nanomachine. So as we see the video, these nanomachines are drilling to the cell, drilling small holes, allowing this propidium iodide to get incorporated into the cells that binds to the fragmented DNAs, which is one of the signs of necrotic cell death, which means there's no point in turning back. The cell is already dead.
But the takeaway is that this little robot is so small that 50,000 of these nanobots can fit across the width of a human hair. So they're invisible. I mean, they are invisible to the naked eye. It's that simple. And I know that's where a lot of people aren't thinking. We think about drones, when we think about military projects and them using drones and technologies, we always think bigger drones. We need, not little drones like you can buy on Amazon. The military needs bigger drones. But really what they've done is smaller drones, smaller robots, nanobots. And the predictive programming that we chose to talk about this concept in Michael Crichton's book, Prey, he talks about that groups of these tiny nanobots can all answer to one hive mind. They can all be part of one larger organism, and they can be programmed that way so that they travel in literal swarms or hives. So it all has to do with density. When they're not condensed and they're spread out, they're essentially invisible. You can run your hand right through the swarm and you won't even see it. But as they start to compact together to form whatever the AI is programming them, beaming into them to shapeshift into, then they become solid objects. So the second major takeaway from that Rice University clip is how they kept saying that these nano machines are controlled by light frequencies. So this video that I have on the screen, we talked about that, the sun simulator and the Wi-Fi to Li-Fi and the 5G and the AI smart cities, that this infrastructure that links in to the nanotechnology is being set up all around us. Of course, the propaganda narrative that they use to push this is sustainable cities, right? So they are not just putting up the 5G towers, they are putting this Li-Fi LED system into the street lights, into all of everything you have. And even if you throw away all of your devices, it's still going to be like here, it shows in an office or a library or wherever, the LED bulbs will be beaming it over you. So if you have this nanotechnology in you, and we all do, we've done the spit tests and, you know, for years, for 10 years, way more than that. We were talking about Morgellons and all of these other health effects of them dispersing this nano everywhere. So anyway, if you throw away all your devices, they're still going to be able to detect you through these smart cities. And actually detecting you is the least of your worries, because like they just said at Rice University, these nanotechnologies, these nano machines they created, they encircled the cells and penetrated them and killed them. So these technologies can be used to kill cells in your body. They can be used to kill you. And again, I'm not going to do it all here. We've put several clips of that in all the past videos of people being hit with a frequency from their cell phone and they go into a heart attack right there. Or the guy riding along on his bike and the frequency hit, and it was clearly a frequency because it caused interference on the CCTV, on the security cameras. At the exact moment, then boom, he gets hit with the frequency, falls right off his bike. So this is no joke. In fact, later tonight, I think I'll dig up this old video about the sun simulator and the Wi-Fi to Li-Fi. I think I'll dig this up and I'll re-upload it, because you can see I uploaded this like 3 years ago before my YouTube channel was deleted, so nobody really came over to BitChute or Rumble and watched it, so it's kind of buried 3 years down in the list now. I think I will delete this copy and I will re-upload it so it'll be at the top of the list right below this video. So all of that information is there and it'll save me, 45 minutes in this video from having to show the evidence again. Okay, and I hate to do it for those of you who watch a lot of my content because I've already used this clip twice before. But again, this other video I used it in was also, 3.5 hours. And a lot of people just don't watch that. So for the people who are just tuning in to this, who just happened upon this video because they're interested in cryptids and shapeshifters and this type of thing, they may not all know what programmable matter is. Or they may not have seen it in its scientific context. A lot of people have heard of black goo, but again, that's one of those, quote, paranormal things. So here's the clip from the scientists to show how they moved through the stages to get programmable matter, actual atoms, down to the atomic size. So this is a good first step. Let's look at the M-Blocks self-assembling modular robots. This is sort of a baby step where they started to program matter, large hunks of matter, cubes, to self-assemble. So you get the idea. Basically, by putting these sensors on larger pieces of matter, they were able to control them through software to make them seek out other sensors and move toward.
Now you see the concept she's speaking. It's the same, bro. It's the same way when she was saying, if you look at this title, if you could see this title, the elemental shapeshifter, it's the same way people can shape into you. And then if we get into these demonic kingdoms, how people can steal virtues and stuff. Because we dealing with witches, warlocks, all that, bro. Bro, they steal virtue. they get in front of a lot of people, or they get in front of a certain set of people, they can switch virtual. Everybody be playing other people's roles and don't even know that occurred. You would just be thinking, oh man, you can have a good conversation, whatever. It can be in, bro, I'm talking about one-on-ones and all, bro. Like, this same concept of them sensors that's on this. Let me go back. That's on this. As y'all heard the sound effects. It'll absorb. It's like a vacuum sensor. If they can do that with this, bro, what you think they can do with bodies? What you think they can do with people? I don't know me. Like, bro, just showing y'all what's happening. It's so much stuff we can get into that's happening in this hour, bro. And you will see it, bro. The water arbor for it.
I'll dig this up and I'll re-upload it, because you can see I uploaded this like 3 years ago before my YouTube channel was deleted, so nobody really came over to BitChute or Rumble and watched it, so it's kind of buried 3 years down in the list now. I think I will delete this copy and I will re-upload it, so it'll be at the top of the list right below this video. So all of that information is there, and it'll save me, 45 minutes in this video from having to show the evidence again. Okay, and I hate to do it for those of you who watch a lot of my content, because I've already used this clip twice before. But again, this other video I used it in was also, 3.5 hours. And a lot of people just don't watch that. So for the people who are just tuning in to this, who just happened upon this video because they're interested in cryptids and shapeshifters and this type of thing, they may not all know what programmable matter is, or they may not have seen it in its scientific context. A lot of people have heard of black goo, but again, that's one of those, quote, paranormal things. So here's the clip from the scientists to show how they moved through the stages to get programmable matter, actual atoms down to the atomic size. So this is a good first step. Let's look at the M-Blocks self-assembling modular robots. This is sort of a baby step where they started to program matter, large hunks of matter, cubes, to self-assemble.
Now, you hear that, right?
So you get the idea. Basically, by putting these sensors on larger pieces of matter, they were able to control them through software to make them seek out other sensors and move toward them. Then they moved on to Cadam cylindrical prototypes, because they could move in more directions than just a block. They moved more easily, they rolled more easily, and they could put more sensors on them. Then the next logical step was spheres, because they can move and roll and connect very easily, and you can cover them with sensors. So that's what they did. Then the next logical step was to go smaller, much smaller. So these are cadams, computerized atoms. They are the building blocks of what they are calling claytronics. So claytronics is like high-tech potter's clay. It would be a malleable mass of these cadams.
And the fact that she said potter's clay, and you know what I'm saying, bro, right now we're in the last 10 toes, we're in the last empire of the Babylonian statue, bro. So that being said, you gonna see, like, and if I can find that vid, it'll go into all the iron and clay, because now you can go into the scrolls and see, okay, Daniel, Book of Daniel, then you go get the breakdown. You can, go YouTube, wherever you go to go get the breakdown, and it's gonna show you the statue. It's gonna show you all Grecian, Medes, Persia, all them, boom. So then you get to the last, to where the toes, right? Boom. You get that, boom. That's Rome. That's the eagle. That's descriptive. That's the Idumeans, all that. All of them Matter of fact, I just got a list of the ones who gonna conspire against us. You feel me? So the fact that that's going on, you gonna see it, bro. Trust and this out, bro. You can't really miss nothing because he putting it in your hand. He putting it and he's showing you, bro. But you gotta understand why I was working. All these world dominations is working, right? All these world dominations of religions and all of them is working, bro. All of them is working. You know, crosses being thrown out. You know, you gonna see it, bro. You going to see it. You gonna see it. You know. But we gonna let the video play, man.
These computerized atoms all together in this claytronics, that instead of like the potter's clay being formed with your hands, it would form objects through computer software programs, artificial intelligence algorithms, wireless frequency technologies, sonic technologies.
Small. I mean, really small. I'm talking about programmable matter, actual three-dimensional tactile material that can take on any predetermined shape and then change shapes on demand.
And they're talking about adding in the technology of 3D printers, essentially is what it is. So instead of sending a fax, is how they describe it, instead of sending a fax to somebody, a facsimile, you can send through 3D printing using these CADMs the program of something you have, you know, at wherever point A is in your home, and you want to send it to somebody. They have their own basket of Legos over there. They have their own programmable matter, and they receive it and it will materialize. So you can probably see where I'm going with this.
Think the fax is dead? Wait until you can fax your whole body. You know, back in our self-reconfiguring modular robots episode, we talked about robots that can reshape and reform themselves so that
we shine a light on it, and the motor rotates at 2 to 3 million rotations per second when a light shines on it.
Okay, so I'm finally getting around to part 3 of that last series about the nanotechnology swarms and the programmable matter, and how all of this technology relates to many of these, quote, paranormal phenomena like shape-shifting cryptids, or there's the sentient mist, the fog, there's even the walking trees. There are claims of immortals or vampires that have lived throughout the ages that have both of these qualities. They seem to be some form of beta test back in the Dark Ages on immortality and alchemy and that type of thing, but they also seem to have these shape-shifting qualities. Like Michael Crichton's book, Prey, talks about these nano swarms that are predators, but let me actually, this is probably a better copy, because you can see here it's shaping into the formation of a man, which is what his book Prey talks about. These nanoswarms become very dense and basically materialize. It's what we would call materialization. When we see these ghosts or demons or shadow people that materialize from like a black mist in the corner of the room and that type of thing. Well, in Michael Crichton's book Prey, he talks about these nanoswarms being able to get very dense, condense down, and materialize into basically doppelgangers. They could pretend to be people. So this is actually the third part to that series right here. The Archon Invasion, New World Order, Parasites right here. This is your brain on parasites, talking about these nanotechnologies. And then the part 2 to that was here, the Secret Space Program, Vril, Parasites, Shadow People, and Nano Possession. So I had said at the end of that one that I was going to take all the clips that were like the high strangeness about cryptids and that type of thing, and I was going to put them all together in one sort of cryptid video with the clips. So that's what this is right here. But that is a 6.5 hour series. So if you haven't seen that and you still want to watch this video about cryptids and the sentient mist and all of that, let me distill it in like 60 seconds. So right here on the screen, we have a clip from Rice University. I've shown this several times before.
nano machines for several years, particularly nano cars, which we've made previously, where we had 4 wheels and a chassis, and then we built motorized nano cars that had these little motors that could push them along a surface. And more recently, what we did is we built something analogous to a nano submarine, where we could have the motor rotate when we shine a light on it, and the motor rotates at 2 to 3 million rotations per second when a light shines on it, and we could propel it in solution. Now, these molecular motors and the molecular nanomachines are really quite small. We can park about 50,000 of them across the diameter of a human hair. And so what we've done in this study is we've shown that we can drill into cells, human cells, animal cells, we can drill into them using these nanomachines. So the nanomachines will attach to the surface, and then a light will be shown upon them, and they will drill right into the cell.
Okay, let me break in here just for a second. I want to play some more of that clip, but I'm trying to distill 5 years of research and deleted videos from my deleted YouTube channel in like 5 minutes. So what he just said about these molecular nanomachines being able to drill into cells and all of this and deliver a payload and all of this type of thing, he's basically giving the exact definition of what we are told are, quote, viruses, right? Like here on the screen, this is a bacteriophage, and phage medicine is old, this is old school stuff. This has been around a long time. And you can see clearly these are molecular nanomachines. These aren't viruses. These are engineered robots, drones on a tiny, tiny scale.
Shalom. So, I really want to, I ain't even gonna lie. I really want to, get into the idolatry, but first off, we gonna get judgments, everything going on in the earth, right? But what we left off was this right here. It stopped at quantum dot tattoos, right? Which is like an incision, which is like a sigil, right? It changed your biology. It changed your biology. I mean, not biology, but your biological body, right? So let's, hold on. Come on.
Are the ones being funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to develop these quantum dot tattoos, which are both the vaccine. So this is a vaccine, and it is also the vaccine record. And I use that term loosely. When I say vaccine, I just say that because that's what most people refer to this as. And not just this series of injections, but this probably 70-year injection program that we were born into. Or at the very least, 50 or 60 years that I can track it back through the CIA programs, and the MK Ultra programs, and all of that. So just for the sake of ease, I use the word vaccine, but we all know that this injection program we were born into, it has never been about vaccination. Not that they're not throwing little pieces of these things they tell us are viruses in there, and not that we don't actually build up immunity, because our body is designed by God to fight this stuff off. So I'm not denying any of that. I'm just saying I'm using that term loosely. And I will put the link below to Rice University, to this particular article, in fact, so you can go and read up on this. It's old news to most of us, but you just never know. Like I said, someone might have stumbled across this, just want to know about reptilian shapeshifters, and they don't have any idea with this nanotechnology right here. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation came to us and said, hey, we have a real problem.
See, look. Okay, it said the tags are incorporated in some and only some of the rate of sugar-based microneedles on a patch. When the needles dissolve in about two minutes, They deliver the vaccine and leave the patterns of tags just under the skin where they become something like a barcode tattoo, right? Right. So instead of ink, this highly specific medical record can coexist of copper-based quantum dots embedded in biocompatible, right, compatible micron scale capsules. They're near infrared. Let me see. Infrared dye is invisible, but the pattern they set can be read, right, and interpreted by a customized smartphone, right. So the 2-year project is is on it's on at the 1.5, okay, at the 1.5 prevented deaths that result from a lack of vaccinations, primarily in developing nations. Right? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation came to us and said, hey, we have a real problem. Right? 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 Hold on. Wipe my eye real quick. Alright, so boom. The real problem knowing who's vaccinated. Okay, boom. Okay, they said we go on vaccination campaigns where people get into humorous drive to a rural village, set up a tent, and start
children's vaccination.
Immunizing people, but they don't always know who's been immunized before and what vaccinations are still right, are still needed. Parents often don't know their children's vaccination histories. McHugh said, so our idea was to put this record on this person. They said this way later on people can scan over the area to see what vaccination has been administered and give only the ones still needed. Okay, you see that? You see where they heading with this one, right?
Histories, McHugh said. So our idea was to put the record on the person. You mean in the person? So yeah, that's the quantum dot tattoo, where the microneedles dissolve and the nanotechnology circulates through your blood system, and it also leaves a mark, like a QR code. Sound anything like the mark of the beast? But like we've talked about before, don't get distracted with like Elon Musk's Neuralink implant. Like, that's so primitive. They're going to put wires in your head. No, they're building the nano bioelectronics is self-assembling inside people. So when we start to look at something like, oh, they're going to need a microchip, don't be distracted.
What we've designed, and we've done this very, very quietly, but we're glad to now release it to the world, is this idea of Teslaphoresis, which is a discovery we made several years ago, and we've been developing it. And Teslaphoresis is, the simplest way to understand it, is self-assembly at a distance, just long distance assembly of materials. And what we did was, because we're at Rice, we had plenty of nanotubes around, so we decided to use nanotubes. And what we discovered was that these nanotubes can actually string together and form wires by themselves under this electric field.
So for a ton more information on that, hours and hours of more information and evidence on that,
that look,
go over
that
to my
might look
website
like
or to one of the BitChute or Rumble or whatever and
what
find
that
this
look
video
like.
here. What are we really
Like
looking at?
from what that look like the graphene oxide, bro. So Salaki, the human 3. It got the pictures right here. So the human 3.0, immortality, glowing veins, mark of the beast, right? Magnetic pills. I think that's what that said in the polio outbreak, right? Said microscope images. Who are or what are the really? What are we really looking at? Okay, it said mystery objects in the vax, right? Self-assembling synthetic biology and nano bioelectronics microscopy images from the vax values.
The mystery objects in the COVID vax are self-assembling synthetic biology and nanobioelectronics. I want to get on with this and get to this sentient mist. It's so interesting. And the shape-shifting cryptids and all of that. So anyway, there's all of the information about what we're talking about there if you still don't think this type of thing is scientifically possible. This one right here has the Dr. Roger Lear, where he was removing those alien implants, and they found all those decades ago, and they didn't know what they were looking at either. These self-assembling microchips, implants, that when they would try to take them out of the abductee, they would break apart, or they would even move away from the surgeon as if they had intelligence. And certainly this 3-hour presentation, the COVID virus and a computer virus are the even with our own families for fear of ridicule. People who see a Bigfoot and they go and tell their own parents, their closest loved ones will not believe them because this breakaway civilization controls the media and has told them, don't believe what you see with your own eyes. You only believe what we tell you, and you only talk about what we say you can talk about. And I'm tired of it. And if you're on a channel like this, I think you're probably tired of it too. So let's rip this Band-Aid off, let's lift this veil, and let's talk about it. There are scientific explanations for why many of these shape-shifting cryptids especially avoid light, and why we have these weird reports like Men in Black encounters when they come to intimidate the UFO witnesses. They'll do strange things like avoid the microwave appliances. They will like shy way across the room and not get close to microwaves. There's a reason for all of this. None of it is anomalous. And that is what we're seeing here on the screen, these graphics they keep showing us that they tell us our, quote, viruses have always been programmable matter. The secret is hidden right in front of our faces. It always is. I mean, look at them. This is exactly programmable matter. These aren't viruses as we have been taught. Like in the standard COVID image, you can see the proteins, the spike proteins they call them, that are all around the outside. Those are magnetoproteins. Since this video is about cryptids and strange phenomenon that can be explained by this technology, I'm not going to go through all the tech again. But as you can see on the screen, this is real science. These are magnetic protein crystals, and shows these right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Magneto nano sensor right there. And do these not look like viruses or what they tell us are viruses? It's the same thing. And of course, why so many people are reporting metal sticking to them after they start the injections. And even people who haven't had the injections, who have been cross-contaminated, or, you know, they've been layering this stuff in for years. They even found it in the meat. Because if it's in the crops and it's being sprayed through chemtrails, then obviously it's in the animals. And where does the meat in the grocery store come from? Animals. So, yeah, it's all really happening. People are becoming magnetized as we all get colonized by this stuff. I mean, we're all beating back the beast, trying to detox and do all that we can, but, you know, we're coming to the end of this thing here. God makes it perfectly clear in Matthew 24:22, except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Thank you, God, for that, because these vaccines are self-replicating and self-spreading. That much they did teach us about, quote, viruses, right? But the good news about the apocalypse is that the word apocalypse literally means the unveiling, to pull the curtain back. So all these things hidden are being unveiled right now. So while all the people in that kingdom are busy killing one another, you know, you've got like the communists and Nazis fighting, while they're doing that thing, God is teaching and elevating his children to the positions that he has prepared for us. So this is how it goes in the fullness of time. Everybody will be vindicated. Even David Icke talking about shape-shifting reptilians. All of this will come to light, and all of the passe scientism and pseudoscience that they have been teaching us to keep us blind and dumb, it will all fall away with everything barbaric and passe. So even though they might mock us now because we're fringe, right? Well, I'd rather be way out on the pioneering edge than way back in the crowd. I'd rather be a leader than a follower. So I'm going to talk about this stuff. So they're computerizing matter and they're computerizing DNA. Okay, I know. Let's get to it, right? Let's get to the cryptids. Are there any reports of what we just talked about? Are people encountering anything out here in this world that matches the characteristics of what we just talked about? Are there eyewitnesses of green fog, of sentient mist, of literally something resembling this black goo, this, what do they call it, the black smoke monster or something on that series Lost? Like a black mist in the corner of a room manifesting into the general shape of a human, a shadow person that then holds them down, that we call sleep paralysis, that can literally paralyze their body, that can influence their thoughts and put torturous images in their mind while they're being paralyzed. Do we see anything like this in the world around us? Is this technology already on the loose? And the answer is, of course. We've heard just limitless piles and piles of humans encountering exactly this, going all the way back to ancient times and in the Middle Ages, and the evil doppelgangers, they called them, these evil replicas of people that started showing up, to probably 80% of what we call ghost encounters. People see this mist, ectoplasm, sort of materializing into something solid. So I guess we'll jump right in with some of Linda Godfrey's work on the sentient mist. In her book, Monsters Among Us, she has an entire section on sentient mist and these types of phenomenon. In section 4, Creatures of Shadows, Mists, and Lights, especially chapter 16, where she specifically has stories of these green mists and sentient atmospheres, then all the way down in chapter 21 and 22, she starts tying it into these encounters with shape-shifting cryptids or cryptids that seem to materialize out of a mist.
One of the weirdest is what he calls the green haze. A light green, translucent mist with no apparent source that he has spotted twice in 2011 and 2012. Kevin's first encounter with the green mist was at dusk on a clear day as he sat doing paperwork in his squad car. He had parked in the gravel lot next to the expansive marsh and footpath that leads into a dark, hilly woods just north of the city of Burlington, the same wooded area where Mary Sutherland believes the Burlington Vortex is located. But Kevin didn't know that in 2011. The phenomenon that appeared to be a large area of rolling green haze was something he'd never seen before. Kevin said he didn't know exactly where the mist came from. It just suddenly appeared. The haze then proceeded to move toward him as if on a mission of its own. Kevin watched the haze, fascinated, as it began to drift in a northwesterly direction, straight toward his squad car. As the haze drew nearer, it suddenly began to affect the vehicle's electronic systems. Although the car's engine kept running, Its RPM rate slowed to a minimum, and the headlights dimmed to where they were barely discernible. The computer screen blanked out, and the fully charged portable police radio appeared to be dead. The dampening effect continued as the haze changed course slightly to the north and then wafted its way up into the woods. Kevin said at that point, it simply vanished into the trees. Everything operated normally once it was gone, even the portable police radio, said Kevin. It is hard to say how large the area of the haze was, since I was never inside of it, but judging from the length of it, I would say at least an acre. I asked Kevin how long he thought the entire episode lasted, and his story grew even stranger. I do not know the time span of this event, said the officer. I never looked at my watch. However, when I parked in the lot, there was still pink in the sky to the west. When the haze was gone, the sky was dark, black, and it was near the end of the shift, about 10 p.m. His other run-in with the green fog also occurred in a parking lot. This time it was just east of Burlington in Fisher County Park, near the boat ramp on the south shore of Browns Lake, off Durand Avenue. The haze seemed to just appear near the marine area just west of Fisher Park, he said. It drifted to the northwest over the lake toward the island with the house on it. It just disappeared once it got toward the south end of the island.
So that encounter really reminds me of like the Bermuda Triangle type stuff. And it doesn't have to be in that location, but this UFO related green electric mist that several airplanes have reported being caught in this green electrical mist. And it shuts down their devices and especially messes with their magnetic instruments, their compasses and things like that, which again, talking about the magnetism being one of the major components in controlling and organizing these nanoswarms. So that's interesting. Sometimes pilots report visibly seeing a UFO before, during, or after one of these encounters with this green electric mist. And other times it's just like that police officer that we just heard about. They just report seeing a giant cloud of it, like he said, what was it, an acre? About an acre in size. So much bigger than we would think of as a ghost or a demon, a demonic spirit. But still, the ghost hunters, they use those devices to pick up, thermal changes in the atmosphere, to pick up electromagnetic changes. So even if the nano swarm is so dispersed that you don't see anything like ectoplasm or the green mist or anything like that manifesting, it doesn't mean that it's not still present, only just not as dense, not as condensed. And it's no secret that they have that technology. People who report encounters with these cryptids, the ones that we call aliens, they always report them materializing and dematerializing or being able to move through walls. But it's interesting, the ones that materialize the most often in people's bedrooms during these alien abductions and whatnot, that it's usually the small grays, which I think all of us pretty much agree are the synthetics, that those are synthetic organisms, sort of avatars, little avatars for the taller grays or these other human hybrids that are not fully synthetic, but are actually part biological. It seems like the tall grays and these other like humanoid hybrids, the ones, the flesh and blood ones, seems like they always stay in the background and they send out these avatars or surrogates. Like the Bruce Willis movie, Surrogates, how they all stay in their houses because they don't want to get in a car wreck or get hurt, so they just send out their consciousness in the surrogates. It seems like the majority of these bedroom encounters and abductions are one of two things. They either involve the little gray synthetic beings, or they're a virtual reality experience where they just experience the cloud or the light over them and they are given a virtual reality sort of message. But it's actually pretty rare for these other cryptids, that we call the alien races, for them to make an appearance. I guess it's because, like Phil Schneider said, in the underground caverns, when they accidentally drilled into that pre-existing ancient tunnel system and the military had that shootout, a fight with the tall grays, that they shot them and they died. They weren't immortal. They had mortality, and they were able to kill these things. Of course, these things had high-tech frequency weapons, and they were able to kill almost all of the humans. But nonetheless, Phil Schneider said that you could shoot these things and they would bleed and they would die. On the other hand, like the Terminator movie, what is it?
Lucky, hold on.
Where the next level of robots aren't, like mechanical robots. They're what we're talking about, right?
Lucky. Let's go back to the urn and clay, the 10 toes. You see, this is main screen all over again. Now we get into something, right? We get into this, right? Cause it's all for we dealing with forensic wars. These shooting galleries. This is what we dealing with. These shooting galleries. You can look a certain way and it be from principality based on a forensic of a photo. Right? This is, you gotta understand, just like the archive brought out, all these virtual reality head mounts and goggles and all of that, bro. That's what they using to kill people now. We're gonna hop into that too, real quick, just real quick. They using that. We ain't even gotten to the scrolls yet, but we gotta get all this before. It's what they using. This is exactly what they using. And all these people coming against the tribe, bro. Tell you, so, virtual. What was that? Virtual. What was that? Goggles? Or headsets? Yeah, headsets. That's what they using. Right, so boom.
With another video now.
Alright, cool.
I bump up
Here
on
you go,
this
right
right
here
online, man, with some dumb shit. We go talk about it. It sounds stupid with this Oculus game right here with this character they call Lucky. He's the one who supposedly, created this headset, and it was bought by Facebook. Facebook supposedly buy it, and now it's on the quest, the so-called metaverse. You understand? So we go get into it and see what it is. A headset that can actually kill you in a video game. Yeah, like you die in the video game, you actually die for real. Pay attention here, people, because you have to understand, if they make a VR headset like that can kill you if you die in a video game, who would actually buy it? Who would buy it? Who would go pay their hard-earned money to get something that can actually kill them if they play a game and lose in the game? What kind of shit is that, people? But guess what? It's this time of the juice when they're juicing up everybody. Of course, they can introduce a lot of shit, as you can see the one-eye symbol right there represent the Oculus to show you what it is. The one-eye devil post up right there. Why would people be this dumb? We go get into it. I already told you it's end times. People will do anything. Let it run.
Technology.
Oculus founder Palmer Luckey created a VR headset.
You know what his name? Palmer Luckey. It's nothing but fake with people. Another sodomite they bring to the scene. And you got to understand, this right here is there for real. But you have to understand how the people gonna convince these people to buy these headphones that can kill them. How you gonna convince those people? I told you already, once you juiced up, of course you will buy into anything.
That kills you if you die in the game. It's an old trope in a lot of dumb sci-fi movies that involve virtual reality. You die in the game, you die in real life. In said movies, characters get trapped in a video game and must play for their lives. If their avatar perishes, so do they. Well,
you hear that, people? If the avatar perish, so does they.
Look at
so
that.
The avatar die in the game, you die for real.
That. This what they putting among us, bro. And this goes, remember what I was saying. when dealing with this game, this roulette system, bro. Everybody holler the game, but the game don't do nothing but advertise one thing, bro. It never. Just go back to the concept earlier, death. I don't even think I put that on here, but yeah, bro, death is the most thing is pushed. Even when you talking about death eternally, you know what I'm saying? After the afterlife, bro, it's still death. Don't nobody look at what's after. They just be like death. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, bro, a lot of people made that covenant with death, bro. So boom.
So something
Move
gonna
forward.
be in that headset that you put on. Remember, it's on your head. They put it on your head and they're gonna install something in there that's gonna trigger off if you lose and kill you right there. That's what they're saying.
It appears that someone has actually willed this trope into reality. That is, someone created a VR headset that literally kills you if you lose a video game.
Yeah, but hold on. What you got to understand, it was no trope. It's them same people give you in the movie to give you an idea. They program your subconscious mind to actually believe that they can create it. So of course after that they can give you. It's the same people give you the movie actually come up with this shit right here for the people.
Right. The creator is not just any someone, but Palmer Luckey, the 30-year-old virtual reality wonderkind, defense contractor. Trump
30 years old, people. And they're telling you they support Trump. But all bullshit gonna gather around him because it's another puppet they bring to the scene and he bring the so-called headset. You got to understand it's another government puppet selling their product.
And co-founder of Oculus, the VR firm Facebook bought in 2014 for a cool $3 billion.
Damn, you hear that? Facebook bought it for $3 billion, people. A headset that can kill you in a video game. If you actually die in the game, you die for real. Facebook bought it for $3 billion. You believe it? That's coding, but I told you people, this is how they do the masses. It's all government equipment, all of them. You believe they bought it from this guy right here? You better wake up. And he come with the so-called metaverse where you're going to use a virtual reality. They tell you people get gang rape in it and everything. What a dumb shit.
To stay up to date with latest top stories, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube.
Get out of here.
Powered by NeoPixels. LED strips that run inside the blade shape that allow for adjustable colors, interactive sounds, and changing animation effects when dueling. Yes, this thing will actually end your life. More specifically, it is rigged with bombs so that your head will explode. In his
that people was rigged with bomb. Rigged with bombs so your head gonna explode. Wow, okay, continue.
Blog post. Lucky explains how his lethal new contraption is supposed to work. I used 3 of the explosive charge modules I usually use for a different project, tying them to a narrowband photosensor that can detect when the screen flashes red at a specific frequency, making game over integration on the part of the developer very easy. When an appropriate game over screen is displayed, the charges fire, instantly destroying the brain of the user. Jesus. In other words, Lucky has basically brought to life the plot of the Nerdy Anime webcomic from the mid-2000s, Sword Art Online. Indeed. Lucky says this comic was the major inspiration behind his project. In the comic, characters don a thing called nerve gear, which is an incredible device that perfectly recreates reality using a direct neural interface. That is...
Hold on, go back.
Don a thing called nerve gear, which is an incredible device that perfectly recreates reality using a direct neural interface.
Recreated reality. I told you, people. I told you, man. This is how I told you, man. I've been breaking down truth the whole time. The people need to understand what I'm saying here. You see, when they bring you a screen, that's what's gonna destroy the masses, the screens. So now they bring you the so-called virtual reality with you in the screen. Wow. Wow, I told you, this is the destruction of mankind. It's going towards the end times. That's why they can introduce these shits right here. And hopefully the mass is gonna buy it. Why would they put so much money in this $3 billion? You sure somebody gonna buy a headset to kill them? Oh yes, they know, people, because they already juice everybody up. Everybody gonna walk around with a soup brain. They're gonna think for themselves. No, they're gonna walk around with soup for brain. They're gonna do all this dumb shit right here. Just believe when I tell you, a lot of these shit that they bring in, even the metaverse, you wouldn't think back in the days that somebody would indulge in that shit. But they do. Virtual reality, that's all they're selling the masses. in the New World Order.
That is also capable of killing the user. They are then dropped into a Matrix-like world by a mad scientist and forced to endure a death game, where the stakes of the gamma play are pegged to their own mortality. To Lucky, this is an exciting idea. The idea...
All of this shit right here, this VR set where they connect to your hand, connect to your ears, connect to your eyes, take you all the way from reality. You can't know what's going on with you. You got on these nice cancellation shit that let you hear nothing that's actually going on. Is that good? You're in a totally different world. What kind of shit is that, people? How did they come up with this shit for the masses? What I tell you, you gotta be way, way dumbed down to accept this. So what happened? The masses get dumb all of a sudden when 2020 come in? Yes, I believe so. They juiced up everybody.
Tying your real life to your virtual avatar has always fascinated me. You instantly raise the stakes to the maximum level and force people to fundamentally rethink how they interact with the virtual world and the players inside it. Pumped up graphics might make a game look more real, but only the threat of serious consequences can make a game feel real to you.
Yes, because they also gonna have, they do already lay down some laws. After I tell you, I did a video with them gang raping supposed to be a avatar. Some guys in a video game rape a woman that have an avatar on there. You hear me? And then they start coming up with these so-called laws that gonna be on the metaverse. So of course, you're gonna do things in there that you can actually get charged for. You hear me? Not your avatar, but you. Wake your ass up just like they charge you real money to play in a virtual world. You're buying shit in the virtual world. You're dumb as a rock. As I show you right here, everybody gone dumb. This is what they call zombies right now in the fucking 2022 days. That's zombie right there. The ones that cover their eyes, block out from damn reality and in another world.
Person in the game.
It's a
Right,
crazy
well,
person
that's
do
certainly an interesting idea. Though some might argue that the pleasure of gaming actually derives from being able to experience death-defying scenarios and not have your head explode. Some people might argue that. Anyway, whether it's a good idea or not, Lucky seems to have plans to make his fun new hat even more horrifying than it currently is by adding anti-tamper tech to it. This isn't a perfect system, of course.
Anti-tamper tech? Wow, okay, so you can't tamper with it. So, okay, alright.
I have plans for an anti-tamper mechanism that, like the Nerf gear, will make it impossible to remove or destroy the headset. So the ultimate goal here is to create a murder helmet that you literally can't take off.
Murder helmet that you literally can't take off. When you can take it off? When the game done? I told you, you see that right there, that Oculus got for the light, the symbol? That's the one eye. It's the devil working on the masses right here on earth. I already told you. It's destruction time. You're gonna see their hands now. They're gonna show all the ways they got to kill the masses. Remember what they tell you about only 6 million ways to die? Choose one. That's what basically they introduce into the masses behind closed door. Right
Once
here.
it's been clamped to your noggin, the only two scenarios in which you'll be able to remove it are A, the one where you win the game, or B, the one where your decapitated corpse is dragged out of a pile of gore-strewn rubble by whatever unfortunate soul happens to stumble by. This is probably why Lucky hasn't actually used the thing himself yet. He said
he didn't use it yet. Okay, so you're that dumb to believe that the people who introduce it to you gonna actually play it? How dumb can you be, people? I already told you the only way they're gonna get the people to accept this is when they're on the juice. Anybody who juiced up gonna be dumb as a rock. Of course they can sell them anything right now.
there are a huge variety of failures that could occur and kill the user at the wrong time. This is why I have not worked up the balls to actually use it myself, and also why I am convinced that, like in SAO, the final triggering should really be tied to a high intelligence agent that
So
can...
you wanna tell me that you come up with this shit, you have the nerves to put it together, but you don't have the heart to even try it? You just make it for the people and just leave it like that and you never even try it? Why did you introduce it? What make you come up with this shit right here? Because you want virtual reality seems real? This is garbage right here. I told you people, don't attach to the New World Order. Nothing that they bring. All of these technologies to destroy the masses, including the screens that they give you. 100%. No, you don't know real from fake. You don't know reality from virtual reality now. Now they're gonna put you in a avatar and put you in the screen. I'm gone.
Now y'all get that, right? Y'all get that, man. Let me see. Okay. Okay, now we hop back into this.
Shape-shifting nano swarms that can take on appearances of people. Like Michael Crichton's book said, that they would actually be doppelgangers. They could take on other people's appearance. Or like people report with the small gray aliens when they come into rooms and stuff, that they can move right through the walls, they can move right through the windows, they can, do like we're watching right here on the screen with the Terminator movies. It's interesting. The ones that materialize the most often in people's bedrooms.
It just disappeared.
So like, can we get back into it with the doppelganger, the elemental shapeshifters, the bioweapon, labs, nano swabs, all that.
UFO-related green electric mist that several airplanes have reported being caught in this green electrical mist, and it shuts down their devices and especially messes with their magnetic instruments, their compasses and things like that, which again, talking about the magnetism being one of the major components in controlling and organizing these nanoswarms. So that's interesting. Sometimes pilots report visibly seeing a UFO before, during, or after one of these encounters with this green electric mist. And other times it's just like that police officer that we just heard about. They just report seeing a giant cloud of it, like he said, what was it, an acre, about an acre in size. So much bigger than we would think of as a ghost or a demon, a demonic spirit. But still, the ghost hunters, they use those devices to pick up, thermal changes in the atmosphere, to pick up electromagnetic changes. So even if the nano swarm is so dispersed that you don't see anything like ectoplasm or the green mist or anything like that manifesting, it doesn't mean that it's not still present, only just not as dense, not as condensed. And it's no secret that they have that technology. People who report encounters with these cryptids, the ones that we call aliens, they always report them materializing and dematerializing or being able to move through walls. But it's interesting, the ones that materialize the most often in people's bedrooms during these alien abductions and whatnot, that it's usually the small grays, which I think all of us pretty much agree are the synthetics, that those are synthetic organisms, sort of avatars, little avatars for the taller grays or these other human hybrids that are not fully synthetic, but are actually part biological. It seems like the tall grays and these other like humanoid hybrids, the flesh and blood ones, seems like they always stay in the background and they send out these avatars or surrogates. Like the Bruce Willis movie, Surrogates, how they all stay in their houses because they don't want to get in a car wreck or get hurt, so they just send out their consciousness in the surrogates. It seems like the majority of these bedroom encounters and abductions are one or two things. They either involve the little gray synthetic beings, or they're a virtual reality experience where they just experience the cloud or the light over them and they are given a virtual reality sort of message. But it's actually pretty rare for these other cryptids, that we call the alien races, for them to make an appearance. I guess it's because, like Phil Schneider said, in the underground caverns, when they accidentally drilled into that pre-existing ancient tunnel system, and the military had that shootout, a fight with the tall grays, that they shot them and they died. They weren't immortal. They had mortality, and they were able to kill these things. Of course, these things had high-tech frequency weapons, and they were able to kill almost all of the humans. But nonetheless, Phil Schneider said that you could shoot these things and they would bleed and they would die. On the other hand, like the Terminator movie, what is it, T2, where the next level of robots aren't, you know, like mechanical robots. They're what we're talking about right here, shape-shifting nano swarms that can take on appearances of people. Like Michael Crichton's book said that they would actually be doppelgangers. They could take on other people's appearance. Or like people report with the small gray aliens when they come into rooms and stuff, that they can move right through the walls, they can move right through the windows, they can, you know, do like we're watching right here on the screen with the Terminator movies. That these are self-assembling, shape-shifting, the next generation of robots, are nanobots. Anyway, some of the older UFO reports about Area 51 and all of that, and them passing on these technologies and these deep underground military bases. And one of the technologies that they talked about was this headband that the aliens would wear, they said, to navigate their ships. But I think it was probably something even deeper than that, because, you know, we've talked about this before with this technology, that the interdimensional crafts that they are, quote, piloting, they are all created, everyone reports that they don't have any seams or bolts or anything holding them together. It's as if they were poured into a mold, like they were made all one piece. And the abductees even report the interiors moving, like these bots here on the screen, like doors forming out of nowhere and parts of them expanding or contracting and that sort of thing. Or one I can think of off the top of my head is that the table, the exam table that they're on, they say that a table rises up out of the floor as if it formed from the floor or came from the floor. Not that it had hydraulics or a door opened and it came out of the floor. They'll say that they entered the room and the table like formed out of the floor. So it makes you wonder if like this sort of device, this predictive programming in this, is saying just that these synthetics piloting these crafts and these crafts themselves are actual shapeshifters. The crafts themselves could be shape-shifting technology, which is what KJ always says. And it sounded a little far out there the first time I heard him say that. I'm like, okay, the crafts themselves are alive. They're, you know, I don't get it. Like, they're the shapeshifters, and now I get it. And I completely agree. So the more and more that we can see reality in context of what technology actually exists, not what they've shared with the public, you know, when you can see reality in its fullness, yeah, it's no coincidence that we see these green electric mist phenomenon around UFOs and UFO technology. And it's not a coincidence that the Montauk boys said that it was these same aliens who shared this technology with the military. It really does all make perfect sense. If they would just allow us to learn, they would stop censoring everything intelligent and just allow us to learn. And we see the same thing with tornadoes. There's a huge cover-up about what causes tornadoes and what actually occurs atmospherically during a tornado. Now, not all of them. I'm not saying there aren't little dirt devils that go through your yard that might just be wind. But you know what I'm talking about. These huge tornado systems where the entire atmosphere turns green. And when some of these tornadoes move through areas with this green atmosphere, we see the same types of anomalies that were seen during the Philadelphia experiment, where, say, like a piece of straw will go through a window, but when they inspect it after the tornado has passed, it's not that the piece of straw broke the window or broke a hole in the window. It's literally melded like one with the glass. It went through the glass like they were both temporarily liquid or something, and then reformed together where the straw is melded into the glass as one with the glass.
Alright, so Lucky, we gonna get into the scrolls now. We getting back into Isaiah 3. Right. Nah, it's Lucky, hold on. Right, so boom, for behold the Lord, the behold, the Lord of hosts, they'll take away Jerusalem from Judah, the staff, the state and the staff, the whole stale bread and the whole stale water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet, and the prudent and the ancient, and the captain of 50, and the honorable man, and the counselor, of the cunning, artificer, and the eloquent orator, and I will give children to be their princes, and babies shall rule over them. Right? And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, as we seeing now. Right? As we seeing now. So, and everyone by his neighbor, the child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient. Right? And the base against the honorable. Right? So when a man shall take hold of his brother, right, which was what we seeing now, when a man shall take hold of his brother and his house of his father, saying, thou hast clothed or clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand, and that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer, for in my house it's either, right? It's neither bread nor clothing make me not a ruler of the people, for Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. The shoe of their countenance does witness against them, and they declare their sin in Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say ye to the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doing. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his bands shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which led thee caused thee to error, and destroy the way of the paths. Yah will judge. So the Lord standeth up to plead and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people first. Okay, and the princes thereof, for ye have eaten up the vineyard and the spoil of the poor in your houses. What mean ye that that you beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, said the Lord, God of hosts. Okay, Judah, right now, this is what I wanted to get into. Why would women gonna be ruling over men, right? So Judah's women denounced. Moreover, the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk. Okay, this way he said he gonna take away the earrings, all that. Boom. All the jewelry, everything that kept you clothed, with your raiment. So look, will stretch forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and missing, as they go and making a twinkling of their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scalp with a scab on the crown of their head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. And that day the Lord will take away the bravery at their tickling ornaments about their feet, right? In their skull, in their cows, in their round tires, like the moon. Chains, right? All your necklaces, the chains, bracelets, mufflers, the bonnets, the ornaments of the leg, and the headband, right? Right? And the tablets, and the earrings, right? And the earrings, and the nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the weapons, and the crisping pins, right? Right, the glasses, and the fine lining, and the hood, right, and the veils. And it shall come to pass, right? And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. There shall be stink, right? And instead of girdle, a rent. And instead of well-set hair, baldness. And instead of a stomacher, which is like a girdle, you know what the women wear, the stomacher, a girding of sackcloth, right? Burning instead of beauty. Right? The man shall fall by the sword, the mighty in war. Right? And her gate shall lament and mourn, and she is being desolate, shall sit upon the ground. Right? Right, so boom. Alright, so boom. Okay. Said a mighty man and a man of war, the judge and the prophet. The judgment is worse than just taking away food and water. Y'all also brought judgment on Jerusalem and Judah by depriving them of godly, competent leaders on every side or every level. The mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the divine and the elder, the captain of 50 and the honorable man, the counselor and the skillful artisan and the expert, right, enchanter. Instead of wise, competent leaders, y'all would give children to be their princes. Right? Baby shall rule over them. Right? So the people will be oppressed. This comes from the ungodly, incompetent leadership. There will be a breakdown of order in society as we see it now. The child will be insolent toward the elder, the base toward the honorable. Right? You have clothing. You be our ruler, and let these rooms be under your power. Things will become so bad that in the minds of the people, the smallest of achievements will qualify a man for leadership. See, that's what it is. We stress so much. Oh man, I'm gonna come. I don't care. It's other. I don't care. You know it's other world. People be like, oh man, I'm trying to accomplish this. I'm trying to go, and you know what I'm saying. And it don't be in the sight of the apple. So it be pretty much like, you know, you accomplishing something, but it's your own personal willing, you know what I'm saying, of doing. Right? It said, yet even such a man would not want to lead. In that day he would protest, saying, I cannot cure you, or I cannot cure your ills. Do not make me a ruler over the people. Right? Now he said, do not make me a ruler on you, right? Just because he know he don't even supposed to be ruling. You know what I'm saying? It's just judgment. So everybody, it's a rotation. They go back to the rotation. Everybody, you gonna see king and prince up and forth, up and down, up and down. One go up, they come down. The next one go up, they come down. The next one, the same thing, man. Right? He said, okay, why Judah right before judgment? For Jerusalem stumble. Judah is fallen because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory, to look on their countenance witnessing against them. They desire their sin, their Sodom. Right? They declare their sin and Sodom. They do not hide it. Woe to their soul. Right? For they have brought evil upon themselves, saying the righteous, that it shall be well with him or with them. For, right? Right? Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their doing. Woe to the wicked. Woe to the wicked. Woe to the wicked. It shall be evil with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors. Right? Children are the oppressors, right? And women rule over them. Look at that. It said children gonna be your oppressor and women rule over you. Right? Oh my people, those who lead you cause you to err and destroy the way of the paths. And their tongues, right? And their tongue and their doings are against the Abba. Jerusalem and Judah have sinned in and what they say and what they do. And in fact, what they say what they say and what they do, right? Provoke the eyes of the glory, right? Right? Eyes of the glory, okay, to look on their countenance, witnesses, right? Witnesses against them, the very look. Right? Alright, boom. The look on their countenance, witness against them, the very look on their faces is evidence of their guilt. Either they have the smirk or the reprobate or the downcast gaze of those under conviction, right? And they declare their sin as Sodom. They do not hide it. Their sin is openly displayed. They have no sense of shame. The cultural, right? The cultural dynamic, right? Right. And Isaiah's day was probably much the same in our time. The name of frankness, honesty, and let's not be hypocrites. All kinds of sin are approved, and no one is allowed to proclaim standard unless they live up to to a prophetic. Live up to it perfectly, right? So, woe to their soul, for they have brought evil upon themselves. Yah did not have to do anything unique or special to bring this judgment on Jerusalem and Judah. All he had to do was lead them done, right, and allow them to bring evil upon Jerusalem, right. Say to the righteous that it shall be well with them, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. Right, even in the midst of judgment, Yah knows how to bless and protect his people. Right? Sometimes this is only seen the perspective of clarity. Sometimes this is only seen in a particular or the perspective of eternity, but Yah assures us that the righteous would never share the same fate as the wicked. Right? Abraham knows this principle well when he said to the Lord, far be it from you too do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of the earth do right? They shall eat the fruit of their doings, for the reward in the hands of the hands shall be given him. Right? Yah will give both the righteous and the wicked, right, their reward they deserve. For the righteous, this is a comfort. For the wicked, if it is a curse. As for my people, right, children are as their oppressors, and women rule over them. Right? See, we're stressing that again. And women rule over them. Again, the Lord both declares and bemoans his judgment on Judah, and that they have been given incompetent and ungodly leadership. Those who lead you cause you the error, destroy the way of the power. Okay, woman rule over them. This was seen as a curse, not a blessing. Certainly, God, y'all may see it, bro. Right. So, let me see. Y'all may rise up particular women at particular times to be leaders in different spirits. The board, Judges 4 through 5, extra, are examples of this, but this is entirely different from a society where, in general, women rule over them. Such a society is cursed, not blessed. Yah's case for against Judah. Okay, that ill treatment of the poor. The Lord stands up to plead and stands to judge the people, right? And the Lord will enter the judgment with the elders of his people, right? Okay, will enter into judgment with the elders of his people, right? And his princes. For ye have eaten up the vineyard and plunder of the poor is in your houses. What do you mean? See, that's precise. That right there is precise. He said, for you have eaten up the vineyard. The plunder of the poor is in your houses. What do you mean by crushing my people and grinding the faces of the poor? Said the Lord, the God of hosts. Right? The Lord stands up to plead and stands to judge the people. Here the Lord is both persecutor, right? Stands up to plead and right, and a judge against Judah. Right? When you are in court, the persecutor and the judge are the same persons. You know you are going to be found guilty. The plunder. Okay, now you got the plunder of the poor. It's in your houses. What do you mean by crushing my people and grinding the face of the poor? Okay, y'all change is against the elders and the princes of Israel. It's not that have fulfilled. I feel fulfilled to help the poor. That would be bad in itself, but far worse than that. They have robbed the poor and taken advantage of their property or their poverty to enrich themselves. Right, the sinful woman of Judah and the judgment of the Lord, right, of the Lord against them. Right. Moreover, the Lord says, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with outstretched necks and one-tongued eyes, walking and mixing as they go, making a twinkling with their toes. Therefore, the Lord will strike a scab, right, the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will uncover their secret parts, right? And that day, the Lord will take away the finery and the jingling anklets, the scabs or the scarves, and the crescents, right, the pendants, and the bracelets and the veils, the headdresses, the leg ornaments, and the headbands, right, 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 right. Right? The perform boxes and the charms and the rings, the nose jewels, and the festal apparel, right? And the mantles, right? The outer garments and the purses and the mirrors, the fine lining, the turbans, and the robes. Right? The daughters of Zion haughty and walk with outstretched necks. The women of Judah were proud. They were taken with themselves, right? And love to consider themselves better than others are haughty. The proud heart was the basis for the rest of the sin among the daughters of Zion to meet their unfounded accusations. He lays open and the inward disease which is manifested in the whole, right, in the whole of their outward dress, right. One time the woman of Judah was sexually seductive and promiscuous. They wanted to leer at men, draw them into sexual immorality with their flirtations. What we seeing now, all this sexual perversion, which is stemmed from ancient Egypt and Babylon, right? It's messianic practice. It's a hazing sexual practice, right? So walking and mixing as they go, making a jingling with their feet. The woman of Judah were obsessed with the finery, luxury, right, and accessories. Now, and the fact that he said accessories, it's people that's being used as accessories. It's a practice right now where, like, because it's an era right now where it's mobile services and people being used as 5G's rolling out more. The carriers and all, you know, the chemtrails, all that, they carriers. The chemtrails is used as carriers, right? Right. It said they devoted far too much of their lives to their appearance and image. Right. Right. So therefore the Lord will strike with a scab. Right. Will strike with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. Right. Right. And the Lord will uncover their secret parts, the obsession, right? The obsession with their appearance, their love of, let me see where you at. Okay, the love of luxury and their promiscuous, right? Made the daughters of Zion right for judgment. Their crown will be a scab, and instead of being beautifully adored, that will be exposed and humiliated. Also, the Lord will take away the finery. Right. Right. So the moral of the judgment of the Lord on the sinful daughter of Zion. And it is, and so it shall be. Instead of a sweet smell, there will be a stench. Instead of a well, let me see. What is this? It says instead of a sash, a rope. Instead of a well set hair, baldness. Instead of a rich robe, a girdle of sackcloth. And branding instead of and branding instead of beauty. And men shall fall by the sword, your mighty man of war. Okay, her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate and sit on the ground. Okay, boom. Instead, okay, boom. The Lord will replace their finery with the marks of captivity, humiliation. They will live with the stench, thy baldness, thy branding, and the general deprivation of captivity. Let me see. Your man shall fall by the sword, and the mighty man of war. Without doubt, one reason, the daughter of Zion, right? The daughter of Zion, right? Right, the daughter of Zion. Without doubt, no reason, daughter of Zion, love all the luxury. Right, was luxury and finery was made, and it was before because it made them more attractive to men. They felt they could get men the way, right? But their ungodly love of luxury and finery resulted in the loss of their men. She being desolate shall sit on the ground. A Roman medal struck after Jerusalem fall, right? Shows a Jewish woman being desolate, sitting under a palm tree next to a Roman soldier, right? Right. So now that was dealing with Isaiah chapter 3 and the sin of Judah. Right? So, for thou has fallen by thy iniquity. Okay. Israel future blessing. O Israel, return unto the Lord thy God. For thou hast fallen by thy iniquity. Take with your words and turn to the Lord. Say unto him, take away all thy iniquity. Receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips. Assure shall not save us. We will not ride upon horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, ye are our gods, for indeed the farthing is far. Okay, so that goes back to me talking about the idolatry. It said we would not, right? Where we at? It said we will not ride upon horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, you are our gods. That's dealing with the idolatry, and that's everywhere. That's of anything. That's just not just people. That's not just, this is, that could be anything. That could be movies. That could be media. That could be music. It could be anything, bro. So, right. So, for indeed the fatherless find mercy. I will heal their backslide. I will love them freely, for my anger is turned away from them. I will be as the dew unto Israel. He shall grow as the lily, and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his beauty shall be as the olive tree. His smell is as Lebanon. They that dwell under his shadow shall return, and shall revive as the corn, right, and grow as the vine. The scent thereof shall be as the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim shall say, what have I do to any more with idols? See, I told you. Well, they told you, really. He said that was where we was at when he was talking about that. It said, sure shall not save us. We will not ride upon horses, neither will we say any more for the works of our hand, ye are our gods. For indeed the fatherless find mercy. Right. But we had the branches shall spread, and it's okay. Okay, Ephraim shall say, if I do any more with idols, I have heard him, I observed him. I am like a green fir tree. From me is thy fruit found. Who is wise? Right? Right. 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 So who is wise, and he shall understand these things prudent. Right. And he shall say, he shall know them, for the ways of the Lord are right, and the just shall say, shall walk in them, but the transgressor shall fall therein. Right. So I was just reading chapter 14. So this the future blessing that he speaks of. I wanna let me get the commentary instead of getting the study. Let me get the commentary. Right. So chapter 14, Yah promised a blessing on their repentance, their abandonment of idolatry foretold, the conclusion of the whole. The just shall fall, shall walk in Yah's ways, but the transgressor shall fall therein, falling by iniquity. Right? That's one. Take with your words, right? Take with your words instead of sacrifices, namely the word of penitence. Here, but in the mouth of Yah, right? In the mouth of Yah, words in Hebrew mean realities or realities. There being the same term for words and things, so Yah implies he will not accept empty professions, right? He does not ask costly, right? Costly sacrifices, but words of heartfelt penitence, right? Rise up graciously, literally for good, captive our lips, right? For ills, right? He said literally for good. Okay, that ills instead of sacrifices of calves, which we cannot offer to thee in exile, represent the praises of our lips. Thus, the exile wherein the temple service ceased, prepared the way for the gospel, and that's another thing. Once Yahushua died during the 70 weeks of Daniel, well, not died, but he was cut off, meaning he wasn't in the mix no more. That was the abomination of desolate. That was dealing with the Constantine, Rome, all them, the 10 toes. So he was cut off. What was that? I forget what week that was, but it was in the 70 week. Not the 70, but it was like the 60-some week before it hit the 70 week, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was like the 76 or the 78 week. He was cut off, and then he took away the sacrifice, right? He took away all that. He took away the sacrifice, and then what occurred after? I got these. Hold on, I got these. Let me see. Salaki. The third tribulation. It should be the 70 weeks. I'm looking for the 70 weeks, man. Okay, boom. The fulfillment of Daniel's prophecy about 70 weeks for 7 years each. Okay. Let's see. Okay, this is what it said. So it was during there would be seven weeks and 62 weeks. It would be built again in plaza or street or moat, even in times of distress. Then after the 62 weeks in the Messiah, right? Right. Let me see. Then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah. So it was 62 weeks. The Messiah will be cut off and have nothing or no one. The people or the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and his end will come with a flood. Even to the end, there will be war. Desolations are determined, or war will be decreed for desolation. The 70 units of 7 are 490 years, right? The first 69 equals 7 plus 62, which was, 69. So units, right? So given, see. Okay, giving permission to Israel to rebuild Jerusalem issuing a word to Yahushua entering Jerusalem as the Messiah. Yahushua was subsequently, right, crucified, cut off in Jerusalem, and his temple was destroyed by.
Give some examples like that. And I personally think that this is all one and the same thing. And if we understand it, we can understand that a storm has life, you might say. Why Jesus had authority and he could stand up and calm the storm.
You know, all that.
He could literally command it and it would stop.
Daniel 9
We've been
and
lied to
24.
about what the atmosphere even is.
70 weeks.
Let alone start talking about a sentient atmosphere. I mean, just think about it. If they've lied to us about what space actually is, if space exists in the sense of, you know, what we've been told space is, how do we know that this green mist that collects at the magnetic poles seems to be drawn to the magnetic poles? How do we know that this aurora borealis effect that we're seeing aren't massive swarms of this green mist, of this sentient mist? And it's especially interesting that now, as we move, you know, closer to the end, closer to the event horizon, that people are reporting these northern lights, the aurora borealis, everywhere. It's like over Idaho, it's over Illinois, you know, it's Montana, it's everywhere. And the news is covering it. And they have to cover it because people are seeing these glowing clouds of particles everywhere. I mean, here's Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. So the northern lights seem to be out exploring the world. They're not so concerned about where a magnetic north is these days. Here's South Dakota, but you get the point. And I know that in a lot of end time visions, including two that I had, there was this real strong magenta color in the sky in these particle clouds, and it clearly had something to do with this technology. In fact, harkening back to what like Dr. Madej witnessed when she put the vaccines under the microscope, she saw that when it raised up to room temperature and these things started moving around, that they started emitting light like this.
Nothing was diluted, no human tissue was added. Only the white light for the microscope. And of course, over time, it was becoming more room temperature from the refrigeration. That was it. And so at first it looked just translucent. And then as time went on, over 2 hours, colors appeared, which I've never seen anything like this. There wasn't a chemical reaction happening. It was a brilliant like blue and royal purple and a yellow and sometimes green. And so these colors appearing, I did not know what that was. After investigating a superconducting material can do that with white light being emitted to it. Okay, a superconducting material would be something like an injectable computing system. Anyhow, these fibers were appearing more and more. Some of the fibers had a little cube structure on them. I'm not sure what that was. And also metallic fragments were in there. The Johnson & Johnson, they also had colors appeared. Their colors were different. They were like a fluorescent pastel kind of color. Again, a lot of synthetic structures in there as well.
Okay, let's play a couple more clips of these encounters. This next one was a hunter, and it was a very, quote, spiritual experience for him, because when this thing passed through the woods, it also passed through him, and he felt the emotions of this thing, that all negative emotions at that. And this wasn't all just in his head and his own imagination, because there was another animal there in the woods, and when this thing passed through, it like paralyzed that animal. It laid down a deer, and even laid its head on the ground until this thing passed, and then it jumped up and ran off.
Michigan's green glow. Glenn Arntzen says that at about 9 one morning during the 1985 deer hunting season, he spied a small yearling deer in a swamp near the Escanaba River State Forest in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, near the small community of Helps. He had just decided that the animal was too scrawny to shoot when the world around him instantly changed. All of a sudden, the swamp appeared to take on this weird greenish hue. He said in a letter he sent me describing his experience. I mean, the trees, the ground, the sky all appeared this greenish color, even the air. I don't know how to explain it. Even more weirdly, the green air seemed to affect the little deer, too. Arntzen watched as it shivered and then lay down, its head on the ground. At the same time, a wave of powerful yet conflicting emotions hit Arntzen. I had this weird feeling, one of sadness, remorse, shame, sorrow, he wrote. It was so weird. I wanted to stick my head out of my blind and look up into the sky, but I just couldn't do it. As the green hue passed over him, it rolled off into the swamp and disappeared. The green glow's passing also affected the small deer, which leaped to its feet and dashed off in, strangely enough, the same direction that the glow was headed. He has no history of psychological problems and has never experienced anything like it since then. A relative he confided in tried to convince him that the anomaly was caused by a low-pressure system in the atmosphere, but Arntzen vehemently disagreed with that idea. It was way more than that, said Arntzen. It was something else. This is the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. Arntzen estimated that while the experience should have lasted only 3 minutes, it felt more like 15 minutes, as if time had expanded inside the green glow. That's very similar to Kevin's perception of more time having passed than he realized when he was enveloped in the rolling green mist. I was surprised to find another older account of an encounter with a green mist that included the same characteristics as the Michigan and Wisconsin cases we just discussed, especially the time discrepancies and effects on communication systems. This one occurred near Avely in Essex, England, in 1974, and was retold by Patrick Harper in Daimonic Reality. In this incident, a family consisting of 2 parents and their 3 school-aged children noticed a blue light tracking them among the roadside trees as they drove home from a social event one evening. After some minutes, the light finally stopped appearing, and the next thing they noticed was that the world around them went silent, just as their car entered a large mass of green fog or mist. The phenomenon shorted out their car's radio and stopped the engine momentarily. It seemed like only seconds until the car's engine somehow started again and the automobile burst from the fog, but when they checked the time, they could not account for over 2 hours between encountering the fog and arriving back at their house. They also discovered that their television had gone dead. The family continued to endure nightmares, poltergeist activity in their home.
Okay, I'll stop there. I chose that one because of what she just said about the poltergeist activity that followed the event. I believe that this is all smaller parts of one larger thing that's going on. So I do believe that that's just another evidence that these same types of phenomena, like the shadow people manifesting out of the black mist in the corner of the room, or a ghost manifesting out of this ectoplasm, all of that is the same as, say, a cryptid manifesting out of this same electronic fog. In one of the reports, she tells of this encounter that this couple was having, and this dog man was coming up to the window, and they noticed one night when it walked away, it didn't have a bottom half. Like, it just sort of trailed off, like invisible into mist. So it was just the torso was manifested, was like tangibly solid, but from the waist down, it wasn't completely manifested. So we see that a lot. You guys know we hear that a lot. With cryptids, they'll say, oh, like the top half was peeking out of a portal. So like only its head was manifested, but the bottom wasn't. Or, you know, the Native Americans said that Sasquatch and other cryptids would dematerialize right in front of them or materialize right in front of them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that every single one of these creatures is this. Quite the opposite. Like I always say in these videos, I think that that's the biggest mistake that people make in, all of these different fields, is that they want to pigeonhole it into like one thing is going on. But there are all kinds of things going on in this magnificent multiverse. So, people always want to go, oh, well, UFOs are just this. It's just military craft, or they're just spiritual, or they're just, and it's like, well, all those things are going on. Some of these things we are seeing are black ops crafts, usually based on technology they were given in trade, from their peace treaty that they're in with the Antichrist armies, the demon spawn. So some of them are military, but not all of them are. Some of them are extra dimensional. And some of the lights, just the orbs that we see, are spiritual, meaning even higher than extra dimensional technologies, like God spiritual. Likewise, you see the divide in, say, the Bigfoot community. There are people who get so upset because they're like, no, it's cryptozoology is just the study of undiscovered animals. This is just an ape, a primate, or, whatever that hasn't been classified yet. And if you suggest anything supernatural, they get so upset. And vice versa, the people who believe in the supernatural aspects and what the Native Americans recorded, seeing these things materialize and dematerialize, people from that group get really upset if you try to say that there are just flesh and blood humanoid hybrids. But like we talked about with the aliens earlier, the little grays being like the synthetics, and then the people puppeting those avatars behind them, like Philip Schneider said, were mortal beings, like humanoid, hybrid, bipedal creatures that could be shot and killed, and they bled. These were real flesh and blood creatures. So I believe all of that is going on. I believe that there were tribes of cynocephaly. I believe that there were humanoid hybrids. I mean, look at the art of ancient Egypt. Everything's like a human with a bird's head, or a human with a dog's head, or like the Sphinx, it's got the animal body and the human head, so we know from the Book of Enoch about all the genetic experiments, the genetic engineering that the fallen angels were doing. So, I believe in all of that as well. But there is now this mimic. It's a technological resurrection, if you will, of these beings that were wiped out in the antediluvian world, these Nephilim creatures. And I think the actual eyewitness accounts bear that out. Some people say it was the weirdest thing because they shot it, and it didn't even flinch. It was like that Terminator movie where he went right through the bars. Like it did nothing. There was no blood, no hole, anything like that. And then other people say that they shot him and it left a blood trail, or they hit them with their car and it lay on the side of the road dead. So anyway, you can go back and listen to Linda Godfrey's, the rest of her audiobook, or you can just type in Monsters Among Us and Linda Godfrey. And when her books come out, she usually does a lot of interviews right when they come out. So several of those talked about other stories with the sentient mist. You may want to go listen to those. She has one story on there where this guy was having this trouble. It was almost like Skinwalker Ranch. He was having a lot of this paranormal activity on his property, and he set up trail cams like I have everywhere in the woods, and he would put deer carcass in front of the camera to bring in the predators to see if he could get a glimpse of this thing. And it would take several pictures, and he did multiple. She said, I don't know, over a dozen dead deer in front of this, and it was intelligent. It knew how to pause the camera to make the camera stop, like, the power in the car goes out and the radio goes out. Like, it had the ability to do that. So the shots would be, you'd see the mist arriving in the picture, and then there would be no shots, and then the very next shot, the entire deer carcass is gone. But when he got there to retrieve, the chip and the camera, it was still there and intact. And this was one of those investigations that she went and handled firsthand. She went and stayed there and did the investigation. I don't remember exactly what she said, if it was 6 months or a year, that, she went and made sure that this guy wasn't tampering with the cameras and that this was actually happening. So again, that goes along with these, electronic control, the control of these electronic devices that this AI has. Okay, one more. I want to play this one because I think it's always nice to hear somebody tell their story in their own voice, because then it seems easier to gauge their sincerity and to feel their emotion than if you're just, being read an audiobook or something. So this is from Monster 911. It's episode 74. These guys used to be Oklahoma Cryptid Brothers. This is Lance Hightower. I had put some of his clips in the Men in Black video that I did about the government cover-up, that they're not just covering up UFO encounters, that these Men in Black are showing up to Bigfoot encounters, they're disposing of bodies, they're plowing over dirt, they're confiscating SIM cards of people who saw a dog man. They're involved in this cover-up of this entire phenomenon. The bigger picture, it's not, Men in Black are not a UFO thing. They are a shadow government that is covering up this whole thing. Anyway, Lance has had several guests on from several states that have encountered these Men in Black. Great information. And Lance has agreed to come on and do an interview. We actually had it scheduled 2 weeks ago before my website went down, when they deleted my YouTube channel. And so I had to go back and rebuild the whole website and all that. So I canceled all my interviews. So I still have all this, on the books. We just had to bump everything back a month or so that I could get everything done that I have to do in life. So I have Lance coming on to talk about several of those cases. Incredibly, really good information, firsthand information. And then I have Jerry Marzinski coming on. That is going to be an incredible interview. Many of you probably remember him from the end of the RH Negative video, where he worked in the prisons. And this is a guy, secular, completely mainstream, didn't believe in any of this, PhD, well-educated, very intelligent, tons of, decades of experience. And he started working with schizophrenics in the prison system. And they were told, there is no cure for schizophrenia. And he began listening to these people, not just telling them, not just gaslighting them, but asking them, what is going on? What are the voices saying to you? And even though he didn't believe these were separate parasitic entities at first, for a long time, he eventually had some encounters, some experience.
It's witchcraft shit. People work with legions, bro. 1 minute you'll be saying what need to be said. You don't see no change in the alterations or they directing it from people. Then the next minute it's just out of nowhere. It'll use your environment. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Give you this the supercomputer syndrome, all these Havana syndrome. Like everything they say is directed towards you. Come on. I mean, people, the patterns of alteration, when they alter, every time they do it, it'll be talking good. It wouldn't be making references of your environment, none of that. Out of nowhere, it'd be like it'd be, nigga, bro, come on, bro. Out of nowhere, it just happen. You'd be like, oh, man. And they'll use your data and information, they'll market it, they'll opinionize it. I'm telling you. It'd be like out of nowhere. It'd be out of nowhere. All it is forensic. Everybody collecting. It's this big global human hacking and collection. Niggas will hack and then collect all your data and do all these scenarios and narratives over your stuff, man. It's kind of like crazy, bro. We gonna get back into it, though.
Experiences like we're talking about here, and completely changed his life. And if you've seen that interview at the end of the RH Negative Bloodlines video, he's fantastic. So he's going to come on. I think we're taping on the 26th. And then, of course, I still have David Paulides coming up. and Josh over at Paranormal Roundtable. He's agreed to come on and do an interview as well. We don't have a date set yet, but I'll be on his Tuesday live stream right before doing a promo. I'll let you guys know. But I look forward to that because, like, when he was on Vic's show, Dogman Encounters Radio, he said that Vic was very adamant about leaving out anything that didn't make these things out to be like flesh and blood creatures. And in several of the encounters, they were tied into people doing these weird rituals first, or, people who were into black magic and they had hauntings in their house. And then they had these encounters with these, werewolf type dogmen, demonic creatures. So there were all sorts of spiritual and occult connections that Josh said he wasn't allowed to talk about, that they were sort of cut from the show. And that's exactly what I want to talk about. We want to get the full picture, the big picture. We want the uncensored.
Man, they bewitch these people. They'd be talking good for a good little minute. You wouldn't know the switch or none of that. Then after that, it's like they get bewitched or something. And then they'll use all our data information. It's crazy out here, bro.
Third picture. That's what we need to get to the truth. You can take it or leave it, that's up to you. But we need to hear the whole story. And so Josh is going to come on and do that. And I'm really excited about that. Okay, but we'll get to all that when we get to that. But right now, let's finish up. I want to do one more of these sentient mist, black fog, cryptid stories before we move on to the walking trees segment. So this is on Monster 911. It's episode 74. And here is a gentleman telling Lance about his encounter.
Building a little cabin, we were staying in it. We had a picnic table outside one evening. It was on a Labor Day. And I was at that picnic table, was reading a book. Something called.
Lucky, man, bro. If you see what I see, bro, this crazy. This right here is crazy, bro.
Would it be easy if I looked like this?
Okay, now on to the encounters with walking trees. This clip I'm taking from a channel called After Life Goes On. I'll put the link below in the description box. For whatever reason, they only have like 600 and some subscribers. So if you choose to do so, please go over there and show them some love and appreciation and maybe subscribe.
In the traditions of many Northwest Indian tribes are stories about the Stick Indians. They are extremely dangerous forest spirits who have the powers to paralyze, hypnotize, or lure people into the woods by making eerie sounds of whistling or mimicking voices. There are even legends of them being carnivores, basically meaning they eat people. Some tribes claim they are shapeshifters who can transform into trees and rocks to hide in plain sight. Their true form is unknown, for each tribe has a different description of them, and none of them good. It was said that Geronimo, the great Apache warrior, was able to turn himself into a boulder and other shapes. My best friend and I hunt every year in the same spot on my uncle's farm in Fincastle, Virginia. There was no access road. We had to drive through his cow fields to reach that side of the forest. Because it was private land, we had several acres to ourselves. The hunting trip ended up being a dud. The forest had been eerily empty of any life. No deer, raccoons, or even squirrels had been sighted all day. And it even seemed as if all the birds had taken flight to anywhere but here. The sun was just setting when we called it a day. Walking out of the forest, we headed across the field, a 10-minute walk. I was only a few feet away from my truck when a fragrance in the air immediately drew 100% of my attention. Can't describe what it smelled like, only how my body reacted to it. It was such an intoxicating scent that it caused my toes to curl in pleasure. I'm embarrassed to say I was a little turned on by it. There was a deep longing in it too. I wanted to be there with that scent more than anything else in the world. It was all I could think of. The next thing I remembered was hearing a loud boom so close to my ear, it left my head ringing. Feeling as if I was just woken up from a deep sleep, I found myself walking away from a truck and out back into the open field. Why are we going the opposite way? As I pick up my rifle off the ground, I realized it had gone off. It was a bullet that had whizzed by my ear. Whew, that was close. I had just digested this shocking information when a different smell hit my nose. It was the stench of rotten vegetation mixed in with rotten meat. Almost caused me to lose my lunch. The most awful smell and overpowering. Trying to find a source, I scanned the area. In the direction I had been heading, out in the field, was what I thought to be tall farm machinery at first. Using my binoculars to focus in on it, I saw it was a large grayish-black tree. The rotten smell seemed to be emanating from it. An irrational urge to flee from my life hit me. Had to squash it down because I see Carol was still walking towards it. Deep down in my bones, I knew this was bad, real bad. Sucking it up, I run up to her and try to get her to turn around, but it was like she was in a trance, totally unaware I was there. I had to slap her twice hard across the face to get her to snap out of it. We both just took off running as fast as our legs could carry us back to my truck. When we got in, I looked and the tree was gone. That sent us into a full frenzy. You know, in the movies, when you see people dropping their keys because they are panicking too much? Well, it's true. I actually dropped my keys twice trying to get them into the ignition. And it didn't help with Carol screaming at me to get us the hell out of there. And boy, did I. Back at the house, we went over the experience. Carol said it felt as if the scent was floating her on air towards it. Feeling so light and free, she couldn't resist. The next thing she remembers is me slapping her. When she saw the tree in the distance and got a whiff of the rotten smell, said she didn't know why but knew her life was in danger and just ran. We believed the smell was some sort of hypnotic lure. It put us in a trance to get us to come to it. Let's move. It really freaked us out, and we never fished that night. Nobody believed us. We tried staking out the lake with some friends, but never saw anything again. People think I made it up.
All right, so now we're getting into the biolabs that was revealed in Ukraine, right? Because they trying to blame it on Russia. You know what I'm saying? This all lead up to the in-depth of what's going on concerning the Gog and Magog prophecy, right?
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 2721B, and today's date is March 9th, 2022, and the title of the episode is False Flag Alert, Deep State Biolabs Revealed in Ukraine, Leverage Means Panic, Old Guard Destruction. Let's talk about protecting ourselves online. Check this out. The U.S. warned citizens to prepare for a possible cyber attack. We know they're using Russia as the boogeyman. The biggest cyber attack here in the United States was on the infrastructure. And of course, who did they link it to? Russia. Your own personal data has never been more vulnerable than now. This is why I highly recommend Virtual Shield VPN. Virtual Shield helps protect your online identity by making you anonymous online. That means ISPs, hackers, or big tech companies will have a hard time seeing what your browsing activity is. I use Virtual Shield VPN for hours every single day. If you've been looking for a way to browse the internet anonymously, you'll love Virtual Shield VPN. Try Virtual Shield for free by going to virtualshield.com/x22 or visit the link down below. This month, they're offering 50% off for life for all free trial signups. Download Virtual Shield today. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the private Western central bank, the corrupt politicians, fake news, big tech, they're being completely exposed with what's happening out in Ukraine. And they can't stop what's happening. Yes, they're trying to get ahead of the story. They're trying to shape the narrative. But this is going to boomerang on them, just like everything else. And it's getting worse and worse for them. Think about how this all started. Ooh, Putin's just invading. He wants to take over Ukraine. And then people started to report on biolabs in Ukraine. And the fake news continually says there are no biolabs in Ukraine. And then all of a sudden, we have Victoria Nuland, who set up the regime change in Ukraine, come out to say in front of Congress that, yes, there are biolabs there. So we had on one side the fake news trying to cover for the deep state. It didn't work. Now Russia's out there exposing the biolabs, saying they have the documentation, they have everything. And now the deep state players, the corrupt politicians, they are trapped. What happens when you trap a wild animal that sees no way out? Well, they go crazy because they're panicking. What do you think they're about to do? They're already projecting and letting everyone know what they're going to do. It's called a false flag. Because they can't allow this to come out to everyone. Now, if it does, will they shut down communications? I do believe so. But what we're witnessing throughout all of this is the destruction of the old guard. This is just the beginning phase of it. No, this is not World War III. No, Putin's not going to be using nuclear weapons and destroying cities. Actually, if anyone's going to be using nuclear weapons, it's going to be the deep state players. They're the ones who will rather sacrifice the people in that city to make sure they don't get caught. That's how ruthless they really are. Remember, they don't care about people. They believe they're elite. They're above everyone else, and everyone else is their slave or servant. That's how they see the people. And remember, their entire plan from the very beginning through the pandemic, and remember, it's always the same people. The people who released the virus, same people. The people who set up the biolabs, same people. The people who want to bring us into the Great Reset, same people. The people who cheated in the election and overthrew the government, same people. The people who committed treason in this country, same people. The people who want the Constitution gone, same people. It's always the same people. And I do believe this is what Trump and the Patriots are doing. They're showing everyone it is always the same people. They're involved in all of this. And if you notice, they're now panicking. Who has all the leverage? Trump does. The Patriots do. They're running around the world speaking to other leaders, and you haven't heard one corrupt politician, the fake news, even mention the Logan Act. Isn't this what Obama did when Trump was first in the White House? It seems that Trump, the Patriots, are now doing the same thing they did to him. The difference is that they're the ones who really committed all these crimes. They're the ones who set all of this up. They're the ones who are using this on the people of this country and the world. Trump and the Patriots, they're just using all this leverage, and they're exposing all of this, and they're feeling pain and panic every step of the way because it's getting worse and worse, because they're getting caught in their lies, and they can't figure a way out of this. And soon, we're going to have a completely different narrative come into play when all of a sudden Xi, and I do believe Trump is working with other world leaders, Xi decides to move into Taiwan. I don't mean move in and live there. I'm talking about the same thing that Putin is doing, exposing the corruption in this area. And I do believe that's going to be happening soon. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the month of April. Because it seems that the Patriots are going to make it rain. Make it rain really, really hard. And the deep state players are going to be caught in their lies like we've never seen before. I mean, look what's happening out in Ukraine right now. You could see the reporters, the fake news, they're getting caught up in their stories. We have Les Luthor putting this out, showing Ukraine, saying, look, here's a reporter in their flak jacket, pretending that there's a war going on. The cameraman has nothing on. The people are getting fuel. They're walking by like there's no problem. It's all fake. Then shows a video of what Kiev looks like, and it looks like a movie set where they set everything up. The whole thing is to make you think there's a war, because they really do want a war. They really want World War III, but they can't do it. I do believe devolution is in place right now, and it's stopping them from bringing in troops into Ukraine. This is why they want other nations to do it. This is why Blinken was out there saying, listen, we want Poland to fly in there and start bombing things. And Poland said, yeah, I don't think so. You can have the planes. We're going to park them on the air base here, and you can use them. Just give us our other planes, and we'll be on our way. See, they can't do it. They can't have the U.S. military fly in there and do anything. They need another nation to do it. I do believe the military is in control, and they don't have access to do this. Now, what's very interesting is we know that the deep state players, they're going to be trying everything and anything to start this war. And, of course, they're going to blame it on Putin. Oh, look, he's hitting a nuclear reactor. Oh, this nuclear reactor is going to blow. It's going to be his fault. Oh, there's going to be a chemical attack. There's going to be a nuclear bomb that Putin's going to use on a city. All these things they're going to try to do. Now, they're already bringing up the idea that Chernobyl is going to blow. We saw that. And right now we have the International Atomic Energy Agency. They went out, they checked it because it was cut off, and they wanted to make sure that everything was fine. And this is what they put out on Twitter. Ukraine has informed the IAEA of power loss at Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Rafael Magrassi says development violates key safety pillar on ensuring uninterrupted power supply. In this case, the IAEA sees no critical impact on safety. The IAEA says heat load of spent fuel storage pool and volume of cooling water at Chernobyl nuclear power plant sufficient for effective heat removal without need for electrical supply. So right now, Chernobyl is fine. We know the deep state would like this to blow up. They would like something to happen, but I don't believe this is going to happen. Now, just yesterday, we just talked about how Zelensky's wife, and we showed someone, a soldier, a Ukrainian soldier, placing an explosive in a child's playground to use the children. Now, this is the same playbook they use over and over and over. They did it in Syria, they did it in Libya, Lebanon, you name it, they always like to use the children. And we can see a hospital was hit in Mariupol, and right now they're blaming it on Russia, saying that they're the ones who hit this hospital. It's a maternity hospital. There were children in this hospital, and they're saying it's Russia. Now, I do believe we're going to wait 24, 48 hours to see exactly what happened. I don't believe Russia went ahead and hit the hospital with a missile or anything else. Because what's very interesting about all this, we know from yesterday, there was that video of a Ukrainian soldier placing an explosive in a kid's playground. And then we have Intel Slava Z on Telegram putting out a picture of the neo-Nazis in a classroom, or looks like a child's classroom, a kindergarten, and they are there. Now, what's very interesting is that this footage is either from Mariupol or Odessa. And I wouldn't be surprised if something else happens in this area. But let's wait and see what actually happened in this area. Now, the fake news, they're going to use this until they can't use it anymore. This is what they do every single time. Oh, Russia did this. Remember, they're playing on people's emotions. But I do believe we're going to come to find out that it's the neo-Nazis. If you know anything about Ukraine, the neo-Nazis, they're the ones who create all these false flags. They're the ones who set it up to make it look like the other side is doing something. Actually, the deep state already warned us of this in the very, very beginning. And we can see that everything that's happening right now, where they're saying, oh, no, it was Russia. Russia's saying it's a false flag, but it's not. Which means it's the opposite. It is a false flag, and the Ukrainians, they're the ones who are setting it up. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is during this war, we know there's going to be a lot of children who are orphans, and they're going to be evacuated. And one thing we need to look at is, where are these children going? Because remember, we have the Clinton Foundation, we have nonprofits organizations, and all these other type of things, and they don't really help the kid. They use them for human trafficking. So they love these type of scenarios, just like when Haiti had the earthquake, when there's war, they love to take the children. And this is something that we need to watch out for. Now, the other thing the deep state is having a problem with, they're having a problem getting World War III off the ground because none of the other countries are doing what they want. Germany right now is saying, listen, we are not sending warplanes to Ukraine. We're ruling that out right now, and we're not doing this. Poland right now, they are not going along with what the United States wants whatsoever. So who'd they send over there? Kamala Harris, like she's really going to do anything. So Poland, they called Blinken's bluff, and they said they would give the U.S. planes, if Blinken and Biden wanted to start World War III, you can go ahead and use it and use the planes, but use the U.S. soldiers to do this. And the U.S. said, whoa, wait a minute. Now, this is not part of our deal. This is not what we want to do. So right now, everything that they're trying to do, where they're trying to get other countries to start the war, because I don't believe because of devolution they have the ability to do so, it is completely failing. And I'm curious because we see a lot of the patriots, they're going to Israel, they're going to Serbia, they're going to many places and speaking with other leaders, and I do believe they're doing this on purpose. Now, if you look at the fake news, they have been trying to keep up with all of this, and they can't control this narrative. And Pepe Lives Matters on Telegram put this out, and it shows the different headlines from different mainstream media outlets. And they keep using fact checks, which is absolutely meaningless because we know what the fact checks are. It's the intelligence agencies trying to convince people that this is what's really happening. So in USA Today, they have fact check. False claim of U.S. biolabs in Ukraine tied to Russian disinformation campaign. Newsweek, China pushes conspiracy theory about U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. I mean, this goes on and on and on. It's actually, each headline is exactly the same. Fact check. Why Russians' claims about U.S. biolabs in Ukraine don't hold up. So what happened? Well, after all these headlines and everything that they've been putting out there, we had Russia, we had Victoria Nuland come out and say, yes, there's biolabs. So the entire fake news, once again, just lied to the American people with their fact checks. The whole thing wasn't misinformation, disinformation from Russia, because now it is confirmed that, yes, there are biolabs that were installed in these areas in Ukraine, and the deep state players control it. They did it on purpose. And we actually have the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, and they explain, yes, there is a biological program. It was set up by the U.S. It was funded by the U.S., and there's actual documents from the EIDSS, and it shows the actual funding of each one of these labs. And when you count them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that are listed right here. And yes, they do exist. Now, what's very interesting is that there were deleted web pages recovered by the National Pulse, and it reveals that former President Obama spearheaded an agreement leading to the construction of biolabs handling especially dangerous pathogens in Ukraine. The news comes on the same day that Biden regime, Victoria Nuland, told the U.S. Senate that the American government is concerned about biological research facilities falling into Russian hands as a result of the ongoing conflict in Eastern Europe. So when you look at these deleted web pages, there's one from June 18, 2010, the article, Biolab Opens in Ukraine, and it details how Obama, while serving as Illinois senator, helped negotiate a deal to build a level 3 biosafety lab in Ukrainian city of Odessa. Remember, there were 2 senators that went out there. We discussed this before, Lugar and Obama. And they created these biolabs out there. Very interesting. Glenn Greenwald put this out on Twitter. And this is Mark Rubio questioning Victoria Nuland, and this is what was said. Ukraine has biological research facilities, says Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland, when asked by Senator Rubio if Ukraine has biological or chemical weapons, and says she's worried Russia may get them, but she says she's 100% sure if there's a biological attack, it's Russia. So she knows absolutely 100% sure that Russia is going to use these biological weapons. Let me translate this for everyone. To cover it all up, we will need a false flag, or it's game over for us. We'll have the Ukrainian neo-Nazis release the bioweapons, the virus is there, and we'll say that Russia did it. That's really what they're saying. It's clear as day. 1 minute they're saying that these labs don't exist. The next minute they're saying, yes, they do exist, but Russia has the viruses and they're going to use them. So what were these viruses being used for? Why were they being developed there? Was this against international law? We'll be getting into that in just a sec. But first, Brian Cates put this out on Telegram. He says the following. What you saw here is called a controlled explosion. You're about to have to admit something really bad, but you try to find a way to frame the admission you are about to make in a manner that minimizes the fallout. The framing Rubio and Nuland use for making the admission that there actually are deadly bioweapon labs in Ukraine is to present it in a way that Russia immediately becomes the problem, to pull attention away from the fact that all of these assholes up until 5 minutes ago were insisting there were no biolabs in Ukraine. That's absolutely right. Because they got caught, and this is what they do. These people were involved in all of this. And then we have the director of the CIA out there letting us know that they're very worried because they do have intel that Putin's going to use nuclear weapons on a Ukrainian city. This is how panicked they are. Because right now, Russia, they have it all. They have the documentation. It's not just hearsay. It's not them just saying it. They actually have the documentation. Now, people might say, oh, well, it's Russia. We know what Russia does. They just want to say, oh, this is the reason why we had to go in there. We made it up. But no, the documentation is there. What happens if we see the same pattern in Taiwan? You see, it's always easy to write it off, especially for the fake news, the corrupt politicians, to say, well, it's Russia. They're the ones who are doing it. What happens when Xi decides to go into Taiwan and, hey, they find the same exact thing? And now, studies show our appearance directly affects our mental health. Many anti-aging supplements found on store shelves try to capitalize on that. Most of them fall short. This is because they fail at targeting the root of the problem. This is why I highly recommend healthwithx22.com. This amazing collagen quickly restores youthfulness to your skin. It helps combat wrinkles and does so better than anything else people have tried. Imagine how good your skin could look this summer with it. If you've been looking for a great way to look and feel your best, you'll love healthwithx22.com. Get up to 51% off for the next 24 hours by going to healthwithx22.com or click the link in the description. Xi is saying, wait a minute, we found U.S. bioweapons, the labs there, and they're the exact same type of labs that are in Ukraine. Actually, Wuhan is the same type of lab. How are they going to explain all of this? This is where their story completely falls apart. So Maria Zakharova of Russia came out and told the United States, we have found your biological weapons. We have the information, we have the documentation, we have it all. Letting them know they found it all. Now remember, Kamala, she's going to Poland to talk about weapons, maybe to cover up the U.S. biolabs in Ukraine, trying to soften the blow or try to come up with some type of story or create a false flag to take everyone's attention from the biolabs and bring it someplace else. That's what they normally do. But I don't think this is going to work because what Russia has just found, it seems it went against the 1972 Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Production, and Stockpiling of Biological and Toxic Weapons. It prohibits the development, production, and stockpiling of these weapons. And yes, we have the United States sign this, and many other countries sign this. Now, this is very interesting. Now, think about everything that's going on. We know the deep state players, they're panicking. They're now in the corner here, and they're trying to figure a way out of this. They need a distraction. They need something where all eyes are someplace else. And I do believe they're going to try to initiate a false flag. And yes, they will kill innocents. They really don't care. And we know this from everything that they've done in the past. Think about all the false flags like 9/11. Think about COVID. And think about everything else. Because this all leads to the same exact thing. Where did COVID come from? Who released it? Was it actually China? Did it originate in China or did it originate someplace else? Well, let's go back in time a little bit, because we know that George Soros does not get along with Putin and Xi. And Q-Top put this out, and it's a video of George Soros back in 2015 joking with the media goons about how the Soros empire has been taking over other small countries, and they had their eyes on the Soviet empire for some time now. And in the last couple of years, Soros, well, he has become bitter enemies of Xi and Putin, and of course Trump. Which leads us to the next thing. If Ukraine was creating biological weapons, and the deep state right now is panicking, we said this yesterday, did they transfer biological weapons to another lab, which was in Wuhan? And did they transfer the virus there and then release it from Wuhan? Well, Julian's Rum on Telegram points to post 3658. It says, where is George Soros? Ukraine. Who else recently traveled